Hey guys, in this story Naruto and Hinata Namikaze are the Emperor and Empress of the West. As Konoha faces destruction, can they put aside their mistrust of the leaf and aid them, or will they let Konoha burn? Let's find out. Naruto Uzumaki, it is regret that I must inform you that you are hereby banished from Konohagakure no Sato. Your ninja license is hereby revoked and you cannot return to Konohagakure as long as you live. If you appear within the borders of Fire Country, then you will be killed on sight. A blonde-haired woman who was hiding under a henge to conceal her true age, while the gathered civilian council members smirked or held looks of satisfaction, while the shinobi side held looks of disdain. You monster! Look what you have done to Sasuke! You demon! I hate you! I wish you were dead! A pink-haired teenager of 12. You did this to your teammate? You are worse than trash. You are scum. A lazy, aloof sensei. You are too troublesome to remain here. You better leave. Almost got killed because of you. Bummer. A lazy slacker with a pineapple-style haircut. My mom was right about you. You're nothing but a damn demon. I'll kill you the next time I see you again. A feral-looking boy with a white puppy, standing next to a feral-looking older woman with a black one-eyed wolf. It is most unyouthful to have such a demon in our village. You should leave. A boy with bush brows dressed in green spandex. You lied to me. You were fated to become the Ninetales. There is no way one can escape fate. Never show your face here again. Or I will kill you. A boy with cold pupilless lavender eyes. Before you go, please know that I love you. I always loved you. A girl with the same eyes as her cousin. Blue eyes snapped open. After a moment, he realized that he was in his bedroom, on his side, his body pressed up against his wife's backside, one arm around her torso. His spacious bedroom, a stark contrast as to his old bedroom, back in Konoha. Konoha. That was one place that he would rather not think about. Come to think about it, it was 8 years today that he was banished from his home. Back when he was a boisterous, loudmouth genin. Back when his major desire was simply to become Hokage and to earn the respect of the village. He chuckled at the irony. He was not the fire shadow of Konoha. No, he was much bigger. The Emperor of the Western Empire. With a groan, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze assumed a seated position in the king-sized bed. It was safe to say that in the 7 years following his banishment, that he had changed. 20 years old, and with a wiry, muscular frame which hid his true strength well. Standing at 6 feet tall with unruly reddish-blonde hair, the whisker-like marks gone from his face, he was the spitting image of his father, Minato Namikaze, but had his mother's trademark temper when roused. It all began 8 years ago, in the aftermath of the mission to retrieve his former teammate Sasuke Uchiha from his attempted defection to Orochimaru. Despite suffering numerous injuries in the ensuing battle, including a chidori to the lung, Naruto was successful in bringing Sasuke back to Konoha. However, it was while he was recovering that sinister events were underway. The Konoha Council, which made up of the shinobi clan heads and the influential civilian clan and business leaders, had charged him with assaulting a fellow Konoha ninja and assaulting the last of the Uchiha clan, while conveniently overlooking the fact that Sasuke had attempted to defect from Konoha. The Warhawk, Danzu Shimura, Konoha Mercantile Guild head Asano Haruno, Hyuga clan head Hayashi Hyuga, and the 2 senior advisors Koharu Utane and Hanmura Mitokado spearheaded the assault. Within hours, the council had overrode Tsunade and had declared Naruto guilty. Tsunade, however, was able to keep Naruto from being executed, but his reward for doing his job was a lifetime banishment from Konoha, of which the entire council has backed. Desperate for the younger generation to see that Naruto was a hero, Tsunade had told them about the circumstances of his birth, of how the Yondaime had sealed the nine-tailed fox spirit inside his body. Unfortunately, that backfired. Naruto's teammates from Sakura Haruno to Shikamaru Nara instead saw him as the Ninetales reborn. Especially Sakura, who had called for Naruto's execution. both for beating Sasuke down and for being the container to the Nine Tails. Iruka Umino was among those who had forsaken him, as was his sensei, Kakashi Hatake. Kiba Inuzuka and his mother, Tsum, both threatened to kill him should they ever see him again, as did Niji Hyuga. Even Tsunade was annoyed with Naruto's pestering about Sasuke's well-being, despite being injured himself, and Jiraiya was nowhere to be seen. The only people who supported him were the Konohamaru Corps, Konohamaru Sarutobi, grandson to the late Hiruzen Sarutobi. Moegi and Udon, the ramen shop owner Tuchi and his daughter Ayane, and Hinata Hyuga, who finally mustered the courage to tell him her feelings before being escorted by Mato Gai and Asuma Sarutobi to the city gates. Banishment would have destroyed anyone weaker. But Naruto Uzumaki proved to be strong. While staying overnight inside a temple as a guest of the warrior monk Chiriku, it had taken his banishment to see that Konoha would never accept him, not matter what he had done. He had helped in defending Konoha from the joint Sand Sound invasion, which was spearheaded by Orochimaru, and even brought back the Slug Sage so she could take over the post of Hokage. In the end, the dream of being Hokage was just as that, a dream. In an ironic twist, Naruto realized that Konoha was holding him back from reaching his true potential, as what Sasuke had said to him before their battle at the Valley of the End. Everyone saw Naruto as a deadlast with no clan. But that was merely a mask. Naruto simply hid under the guise of a knucklehead ninja in order to keep the villagers at bay, and for good reason. Had he dropped his mask and showed that he could outdo even Sasuke Uchiha, the villagers would scream that it was the fox instead of accepting the fact that it was just hard work, and out comes the torches and pitchforks. Suspecting that the Warhawk would send his root forces after him, Naruto decided to head east towards Lightning Country while sending a clone towards Wind Country after leaving Chiriku. Add the fact that the Akatsuki had caught wind of his banishment. Itachi Uchiha and his partner Kisame Hoshigaki were hot on his tail. Thankfully, the Root Umbu proved to be excellent fodder as Naruto gave both parties the slip as they fought each other. It was while trying to catch his breath in Kumo that he ran into his first ally. Yujito ni, Jinchuriki of the Nibi, the two-tailed monster cat. Pursued by Akatsuki members Haiden and Kazuku in Kumo's sewers, Yujito would have surely lost had it not been for Naruto and several shadow clones littered with exploding tags, which had separated both her and the Akatsuki pursuing her. As it turned out, Yujito had been sold out by the Kumogakure Council without knowledge by either the Raikage and his brother in an attempt to keep the self-proclaimed zombie brothers from destroying Kumo. Disillusioned and betrayed, Yujito decided to join up with Naruto. Several days later, after arriving in Wave Country, Naruto received another surprise while staying overnight with Tazuma and his family. The Forbidden Scroll of Sealing, as well as his heritage. To say that Naruto was shocked was an understatement. It also reinforced his hatred towards Konoha. Since they had banished the only son of Minato Namikaze, the village hero and former Whirlpool ruler and seal master Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, nicknamed the Crimson Fury and the hot-blooded habanero for both her red hair and her trademark temper. His family was also loaded, as the accounts in Tea Country had proven. The Uzumaki clan was also related to the famed Senju clan, of which Tsunade was a part of. It was shortly thereafter that Naruto had adopted the family name of his father, thus becoming Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Since things were a bit hot for both Jinchuriki, Naruto and Yujito both boarded a boat from Tea Country and headed for the west. As long as anyone could remember, the northern and southern halves of the west, from the imposing Lodja Mountains to the north to Tears Point to the south, were locked in a constant state of war. Power-hungry warlords and daimyos sought to control the lands by any means. Whenever two sides clashed, the fields ran red with blood. The weaker daimyos were either overrun or killed outright. Even worse, whenever a warlord was killed, another would take their place in the ensuing power vacuum. Naruto and Yujito were both in Kimen when he got into a fight with several of the local warlord's men. The five brutes were attempting to rape a helpless woman one night, as she had been caught outside of the mandatory curfew ordered by the warlord. The warlord, one Rokenbungi Oda, was the strongest of the warlords, as he had the most territory. Simply put, given the way he had ruthlessly oppressed the people in his territory, he made Gato look like a saint. Knowing full well that Oda would soon come for him, since he had killed his men, Naruto took the fight to him. Naruto, along with Yujito and a number of shadow clones, invaded Oda's castle. Complacent in his superiority, Oda had underestimated the former Konoha genin and had paid for it with his life. With Oda dead by his hand, Naruto had gained an ambition. The people were suffering, civilian, ninja, and samurai alike. With Oda's death, Naruto had also gained his land, which consisted of the soon-to-be imperial capital and all of the Kinkari region. After consulting Yujito and the Kyuubi about it, Naruto decided on a course of action: unify the lands and bring peace to the people. He had spent the first 3 months consolidating his power base in Cumin, which would soon become the capital of the Western Empire. Samurai and ninja flocked to his side in droves as Naruto lured them in with both his fighting prowess and his charismatic personality, promising them peace for the first time since the era of the Six-Path Sage. With that, the unification war had begun. The more ruthless daimyos and warlords who opposed Naruto's peace efforts challenged the underdog of a warlord, and were slaughtered to the last man. However, those who believed that Naruto could bring peace to the West came to his side, swearing loyalty to the young warlord. Soon, his army grew, consisting of samurai and shinobi alike. Much to his surprise, Zabuza Mamachi and Haku, thought to have been killed during the wave mission, were in fact alive. His base of operations was in the forests of the southern continent. Zabuza was leading his own army, consisting of mist refugees who fled during the bloodline purges, and upon finding out that the newest warlord was the same one he encountered years earlier back in Wave, pledged his support. Like his parents, Naruto was an expert in the Uzumaki style of Funagetsu, as well as the Uzumaki and Namikaze styles of combat. Also, aside from Yujito, Naruto had the Nine Tails to rely upon. Originally, the Kyuubi no Yuko looked down on the son of Minato Namikaze with contempt, but after seeing how hard he worked and his devotion to his friends, the fox grew to respect him, which was ironic since aside from Yujito, the Nine Tails was the one he could trust with his life. Proving to be a prodigy in the sealing arts, Naruto researched the seal, which kept the Nine Tails imprisoned in his gut. It was shortly after his 14th birthday that he freed her from its prison, complete with all 9 tails of power. That's right. The most powerful of the tailed beasts was a vixen. The 9 tails, whose name was Kidami, could have left Naruto and gone after Madara Uchiha, the one person who was directly responsible for the deaths of Naruto's parents, as well as sending her into a rage and attacking Konoha, but she was quite fond of the boy, and remained at his side, teaching him anything and everything about advanced combat, jutsus, and life in general, even long before Naruto had freed her from the seal, Naruto taking to her teachings like a sponge to water. Aside from being trained by the Kyuubi, Naruto also learned swordsmanship from Zabuza. He also became interested in samurai swordplay and soon learned from them as well from a master samurai by the name of Sunshur, training with him as well as learning all and everything political, while he wasn't out on campaign. Naruto's major support base, however, would come from the people themselves. Naruto was finally seen for something other than being a Jinchuriki, and that was a hero. It took him 1 year to unify the northern continent, and another year to unify the southern continent under his banner. The final battle took place on the southern continent, if one would call it that. The opposing daimyos had surrendered once their armies had deserted in the face of the young warlord. With the Treaty of Ichiyama, the unification war was officially over. Peace had finally been brought to the lands at last. It was 3 days after the war was over that Naruto was resting inside his home, formerly that of Rokenbungi Oda, when he was approached by the leading civilians, nobility, and clans from both shinobi and samurai. He had brought peace to the West. And now the people looked to him for further leadership. Naruto offered token resistance to the idea, but it was Kidami who had talked him into it. You may not be Hokage, but the people look to you. Besides, you are even more powerful than your father and the last 3 Hokages combined. Why be a Kage when you can become an emperor? With that, Naruto had ascended from being a warlord to the emperor. Thus, the unified West, or the Western Empire, was born. Kidami was his chief prime minister, while Zabuza and Yujito retained their commands of their own elite units. Sunshur also served as part of his council. That was 4 years ago. Naruto kicked off the crimson covers and swung his feet over the edge of the bed before rising to his feet, wearing only a pair of pajamas pants and a sleeveless shirt. He stretched, which was followed by several morning calisthenics to work out the kinks in his muscles. As he stretched, he felt a pair of eyes on him, but he continued his calisthenics. He may have been the emperor, but he was above all things, a warrior. When he was finished, his wife made her move. He didn't even hear her move when she got out of the bed. But he did feel her arms around his waist, her body pressed up against his. While she was still holding her, Naruto turned around and looked down at his wife. She was taller than she was back when they were both Konoha genin, standing at 5 feet 7, several months younger than he was. Long indigo-colored hair reached down her back, her pupil-less lavender eyes looking up at her husband with love and tenderness. Her night clothes consisted of a tank top and a pair of cotton shorts. She was his confidant, his biggest supporter. She was also the empress consort, faithful wife to the emperor. "Good morning, Haim," Naruto greeted his wife, using his nickname for her as he kissed her on the forehead. "Good morning, love," Hinata Namikaze greeted back. It would be 6 years following his banishment from Konoha that they would meet up again, this time in Suna, where the Chunin exams were taking place. Naruto was present as the personal guest to the Kazekage, Gaara of the Sand, given as how Gaara had requested that he train the 3 Suna genin Maru Sarutobi, formerly Konoha Maru, Moegi and Udon, for the upcoming trials. Dressed incognito, which earned him the nickname the Man in Black, he saw Hinata having a falling out with her former teammate Kiba Inuzuka and Naruto's former teammate Sakura Haruno, because of Hinata's support towards Naruto. Using one of the courier ninjas assigned to the Imperial Consulate, he summoned Hinata. There, Naruto found out that not only Hinata was shunned by nearly everyone in Konoha because of her support for Naruto, save for Kurenai and Tsunade, but was also placed into the Hyuga branch clan after her father branded her with the caged bird seal. The caged bird seal, thought to be permanent, was easily removed by Naruto. Then Hinata received another shock. The man she loved was the one who had unified the West. He was the emperor. Free from both the seal and from her father's browbeating, Naruto allowed Hinata to remain at the Imperial Consulate until the conclusion of the Chunin course. When Hayashi received Hinata's Hitaiate following the exams, he was livid. Hanabi, being the perfect little heiress, authorized a bounty on Hinata's head. Much Tsunade's dismay, Hinata was placed inside the bingo book as a A-ranked criminal with the order to retrieve on sight. Hayashi was not going to let anyone kill Hinata, for he would do that himself. Unknown to Hayashi, Hinata had left with Naruto and his entourage following the conclusion of the Chunin exams. The next time he would see her, the result of that meeting would not be pretty. As Hinata and Naruto had grown closer, Hinata was chosen by Kidami to become the 3rd Fox Sage. Technically, only those in the Uzumaki clan were chosen. But since Naruto himself was an Uzumaki on his mother's side and his marriage to Hinata was a foregone conclusion, Kidami chose Hinata. It would prove to be a wise decision. Kidami saw that Hinata had potential and the drive to surpass even the first 2 sages. Even more surprising was the fact that her self-confidence and self-worth had increased. Even though she was not a seal master like her husband, Hinata made up for it by being an expert healer and fighter, her tactical prowess second only to her husband's. Following the completion of her 6-month training, Hinata was officially declared the 3rd Fox Sage. About a month later, she would marry Naruto in a private ceremony. There, she was given a new title, Empress Consort. Unlike most rulers, Hinata's authority was second to her husband's own. She was also quite popular with both the empire's nobility, its armed forces, and with the common people. A former princess forsaken by her family because of the love she had for her husband, long before he became the emperor. It also cemented the dynasty of the Uzumaki Namikaze rulers. "You okay?" Hinata asked. "Bad dream," was the reply. "Was it Konoha?" Hinata asked, knowing full well that today marked Naruto's banishment from the leaf. Naruto nodded. 8 years. "Do you have any regrets?" "Now that I think about it, no. Konoha was holding me back." Naruto paused. "Great. I sound like Sasuke back when we fought at the valley." The Empress consort giggled as she stole a kiss from her brooding husband and untangled herself from his embrace. "Come on, Lord Namikaze. We have to get ready for the day." She didn't get very far. As Naruto grabbed her wrist gently and pulled her back to him. "The Empire can wait, Haim. We'll head out in 30 minutes. Hinata smiled. She still held that smile as she reversed the grip and tossed her husband onto the bed. Before the Emperor could recover, the fox sage pounced on him. 30 minutes later. Following the impromptu make-out session, the Emperor and his consort showered together, as they had always did. Afterward, they emerged from the bathroom and got dressed. One thing about Naruto was that his style of clothing has changed. He had grown out of wearing orange, switching over from the color which screamed "kill me" to mostly dark attire. After all, black was a universal color, and could just as easily go with anything. He walked into his closet and pulled out his clothes for the day, consisting of a white shirt with a tight collar, black vest, pants and boots. His long coat remained on the hanger, while his black Kage-style hat was still on the dresser. The hat was mostly used to conceal his identity, mostly when he traveled abroad, which was often. Hinata also followed her husband's example. Despite having a passion for kesagame dresses, she too dressed simply. Her uniform consisted of a ninja jumpsuit, i.e., her Shippuden uniform, and a black jounin flak vest. The conical straw hat, which Hinata wore for the same reasons as her husband's Kage-style hat, was on the counter as well. Naruto rolled up the sleeves of his shirt to his elbows. The last thing he slipped on were a pair of black leather gloves. Once everything was in place, they exited the bedroom via Shunshin, ending up on the grounds of the Imperial Complex. The sun has just risen over the city of Kimen, which was just as big as Konoha, only that it sat 20 miles inland from the Western Sea. The Kimen River, which snaked its way halfway through the northern continent, came to an end at its namesake city. The imperial capital also served as a hub for trade, as did South Ichiyama in the southern region. Their residence, the imperial complex, was the nerve center of the empire, think the imperial palace in Japan. Located at the heart of Kimen City, which served as the imperial capital, the 2-mile complex sat on top of a small hill and was heavily fortified, as it once belonged to Rokenbungi Oda. Now, it served as the center of the unified West. Spanning 2 miles, the 4-story imperial palace, which served as the residence of the emperor. The top 2 floors were reserved for the emperor, while the bottom 2 floors were for their guests. Aside from the imperial palace was the Hall of Sovereigns, of which the emperor, the empress and their 12-member imperial council, 6 from the empire's high-ranking samurai and shinobi clans, and 6 civilians and nobility who were the elected representatives of the people, met 3 times a week to conduct and manage the government. The House of Sovereigns also contained his throne room, where the royal couple would usually receive their guests, seated on their thrones, as well as their joint office. Unlike the Konoha Council, in which the Hokage was more of a figurehead by the time Tsunade had assumed the mantle, Naruto held absolute power alongside Hinata. However, Naruto and Hinata were no tyrants, showing that they had learned their lessons well. The men and women that served on the council were not yes men, but people who had fought and bled alongside with Naruto in the Unification War, and he trusted and respected them a great deal, as the council did the same. The Imperial Ballroom was located in a wooded section of the park. At the moment, the servants busied themselves in preparing for the Unification Gala, which was to be held by the end of the week, in which the Emperor and Empress would host what is the biggest event of the year. And at that time, the entire empire would be celebrating the peace and prosperity that their young emperor has brought them after years of non-stop war. Adjacent to the imperial palace was their private training hall, where he and Hinata would spar and meditate. Last was the set of barracks used by a regiment of ninja and samurai, also hidden in the wooded area of the complex. The ninja and samurai assigned to watch over the grounds of the complex. Arms linked, the royal couple strolled into the House of Sovereigns to start their day. The samurai that stood guard greeted their emperor, to which Naruto and Hinata responded with a nod. The chief advisor was waiting for them in the corridor. Slightly taller than the emperor, with tanned skin, muscular, bleached blonde hair and mustache, Naruto greeted him with a nod, and the man fell in step beside him and Hinata. "You're up early this morning, eh?" Naruto began. "And you jumped out the window again?" "Chief," he replied dryly. Turning to Hinata, he greeted her as well. "Lady Namikaze." Hinata responded. He did not jump out of the window this time. "We came down by Shunshin." "How did the raikage of Kumo ended up in the west, and as Naruto's senior advisor?" 3 years earlier, it was overthrown by a more hardline raikage. The first order of the new raikage, eliminate his predecessor and his brother, Killer Bee. However, as Emperor of the West, Naruto had a robust spy network in the east. And it was through them that Naruto was notified of the coup while visiting Gaara, in Suna. With the aid of his elite guard, his personal bodyguards, and the use of the Demon's Gate Jutsu, arrived at the nick of time and slaughtered the Kumo ANBU, thus saving A and B's lives. Imagine their shock upon returning to Suna that the emperor was the former Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Even A and B had heard about the exploits about the one who unified the lands under a single banner. It was then that Naruto offered A and B political asylum within the empire. Along with the other 5 Jinchuriki that Naruto had rescued from the Akatsuki. A and B accepted Naruto's offer, with A serving as chief advisor to the young emperor, while B hung around the trading post of Rara, located 30 miles from Kumin. "Still a ninja, through and through," A remarked. "Haven't called myself that since I came here," Naruto replied. "Given the fact that I've also been trained by samurai, I'm more of a combination between the two." "So what's on the schedule for today?" "Not much, just a meeting with one of the daimyos from the southern region. Makata, I think. Everyone is preparing for the festival at the end of the week." "What is it about?" "The Southern Badlands?" "I thought we covered that in the last meeting of the council." "That we did, Chief," I replied, "and so far, your financial aid has proven to be effective. I think that Daimyo Makata wishes to offer the hand of his eldest daughter to you." At that, Hinata's eye twitched. Naruto was loyal to her, and despite her gentle demeanor, the idea of having to compete with either a concubine or a mistress was to her insulting. She made that perfectly clear when she became Empress Consort. Naruto was hers and hers alone. "In case you forgot, I'm married," Naruto said. "But in Makata's case, he wants you to have a concubine. So in case his daughter's offspring could have a claim to the throne?" Hinata cut in. "I think not." "Whoa. Scary, a thought. Glad I wasn't in charge when that mess with the Hyuga went down." Naruto groaned. At least Lady Ehara wasn't as persistent. She did back off when Hinata and I got married. I don't chase skirts or fangirls. I'm strictly a one-woman man. "How admirable of you," I said. In the 3 years that he has been here, his respect towards the boy has grown. Here was someone that everyone has written off as worthless, a dead last who was banished from his home for simply doing his job, the ruler of an empire. When Naruto had told him and B the circumstances of his banishment, both men were shocked. The boy was banished solely for doing his job. Even more so, was the fact that the boy they banished was the son of the village hero, a man that both brothers respected. What was more surprising to A and his brother was that he had managed to rally the other Jinchuriki to his cause. With the exception of the bloodthirsty Yagura, who was dead, in Gaara, who was still Suna's Kazakage, the surviving Jinchuriki had made their homes throughout the empire, and the people saw them as guardians, heroes, not as weapons or demons. The 6 Jinchuriki were also instrumental in defending Suna from the Akatsuki, who had invaded the sand. It was indeed a brutal battle. The Akatsuki was backed up by the 5 Paths of Pain and 100,000 white Zetsu clones. The joint Imperial Suna forces consisted of Zabuza Mamachi's Demon Brigade, Yujito Ni's Hellcat unit, former Akatsuki members Yahiko and Konan, who had defected from the Akatsuki upon being betrayed by their childhood friend Nagato, 20,000 ninja and samurai from the Imperial forces, and the 6 Jinchuriki, which Naruto had rescued. Despite having superior numbers, the Akatsuki lacked the power of the Jinchuriki. In the end, the Akatsuki were routed and destroyed. It was during the Akatsuki invasion that Naruto had earned another nickname, the Akatsuki Killer. Both Itachi Uchiha and Nagato had fallen to his blade. Hinata was credited with the killing of Deidara. One chakra-powered chiton shot from her Yumi bow had struck his pouch of clay, detonating it, killing him almost instantly. "You call it admirable," Naruto replied, "but Makata is as sneaky as they come. Reminds me of the so-called Honorable Council from Konoha. Always looking out for their own interests, yet claim that it's for the good of the village." "Your Majesty." Naruto, Hinata, and Ai stopped in mid-step and turned around. A valet was running down the hall in their direction. The valet skidded to a halt and bended down to his knees, panting, taking in gulps of air. "Catch your breath, son," Ai said. "What business you have with the Emperor?" "There's someone here asking for you," the valet replied once he got himself under control. "He wishes to speak with you, sir." "Tell them whoever it is I will speak with him shortly," Naruto replied. "He says it's urgent, sire." Naruto sighed. "Okay. Who is he and where is he from?" "He did not give me his name, Majesty," the valet replied, "but he did say he was from the east. Fire country." If Naruto was surprised, he did not show it. However, Ai and Hinata exchanged worried glances. "Where is he now?" "I told him to wait inside the throne room, sir," the valet replied. "You may go," the emperor said. Once the valet was gone, Ai turned to the younger man. "Fire country? You think it's Konoha?" "Could be," Naruto replied. "If you want, I can have whoever it is thrown out," Ai suggested. "No. This was going to happen sooner or later," Naruto replied. "You think that after sending out most of the Konoha 11, the Warhawk, and the clan heads after me that they would finally get the hint and leave me alone? Deal with Makata, and tell him that 1, I had an emergency to deal with, and 2, my answer to his impending proposal is no." I nodded and walked down the corridor. Naruto, in the meantime, headed for the throne room, located inside the hall. Hinata followed him. On the outside, he was the perfect picture of calm. Inside, he was angry. Konoha. Today marked the 8th anniversary of his banishment from the Leaf, and someone had the nerve to waltz into his home. Depending on who it was, he may have them imprisoned. If it was that meddling Warhawk and his 2 buddies on the council, execution looked mighty attractive. The throne room was guarded by 2 armored samurai, each armed with a naginata, as well as a sword strapped to the side. The men saluted their emperor, who responded with a nod, as one of them opened the door to the throne room. Hinata remained behind, doubling as a reception hall. The throne room was simply designed, as per to Naruto's orders. The emperor was not a worldly man, as his life in Konoha had proved that. The throne room was simple, yet regal, and it showed off his power. The throne room was half the size of the Konoha council chambers, breathtakingly beautiful and very restrained. Think the throne room from The Last Samurai. A red carpet led from the door to the throne itself, which was raised on a small platform. The twin thrones themselves was of an intricate design. Made from the finest cedar from the southern continent, combined with red velvet from the northern continent. It looked like any other chairs from the empire, but it was anything but. It was a throne fit for the emperor and his consort. And Naruto saw him, seated on the steps leading to the thrones. Pausing only to cast a seal, which soundproofed the room, Naruto faced the one person he hasn't seen in 8 long years. A man standing at his height, with spiky white hair, with a horned forehead protector with the kanji oil carved into it. and dressed in a short green kimono and pants combination, the mesh shirt visible underneath. Over the green kimono was a red sage robe, open. His face had red markings under his eyes, and a giant scroll was slung over his back. Naruto's eyes narrowed. "You?" he hissed. "Been a while, kid," Jiraiya said. "Not long enough, Jiraiya," Naruto replied, his tone flat. "I gotta admit, kid," Jiraiya began, "this is one hell of a setup you got here." "What the hell are you doing here?" Naruto demanded. Jiraiya gulped. He recognized that look in Naruto's eyes. He had seen it in Tsunade's face and recognized it all too well. The "I wanna beat down the perverted sage" look. Given the choice of dealing with his estranged godson and Orochimaru, the snake was looking to be more attractive than the former ninja-turned-emperor, who was one step away from showing him his spine. 8 years and his hatred towards anything Konoha-related had not waned. He had hoped that in that time, that Naruto had cooled down. He was wrong. To make matters worse, Jiraiya had realized that he had chosen to visit on the anniversary of Naruto's banishment from the Leaf. Crap, Jiraiya thought. This is not good. I'm waiting for an answer. "What the hell are you doing here, Jiraiya?" Naruto demanded, arms folded. Jiraiya winced. He had expected Naruto to call him pervy sage. Then again, in Naruto's eyes, he was one of many who did not stand up for him when the banishment order came down, as he was absent at the time. "Look, kid, I just came here to explain why I did what I did." As Jiraiya would soon find out. That was the wrong thing to say, as he was cut off by a yellow flash of light, and a gloved hand from his pissed-off godson clamped down on his throat. Naruto had mastered the Hiraishin. Unfortunately, Jiraiya was on the receiving end. Explain? Naruto bellowed. "Explain why I should not snap your neck, old man. At least, give me one good reason why I should not send you back to Konoha, in pieces." As he tried to yank Naruto's hand from his throat, Jiraiya watched as Naruto's eye color shifted from a vibrant cerulean to the color of pure gold. Normally when Naruto went fox on his opponents, the eyes would go red with slitted pupils. Here, the pupils remained normal. But there was still the matter of surviving the wrath of his estranged godson, who was at the moment, trying to strangle him to death. It took the perverted sage a moment to realize that Naruto has lifted him clean off the floor. "Explain to me why you would rather work on that smut you call novels instead of showing up in my life," the emperor snarled. "Why you abandoned me like the rest of that damned village. Why you didn't tell me who my parents were. Or why you have the nerve to waltz into my country and my home uninvited." I'm sorry, Jiraiya managed to croak out. "Please don't kill me." Jiraiya's eyes were starting to roll into the back of his head, his skin starting to turn purple. Seeing that having a dead body on his hands would be bad even for the emperor, Naruto released him. The toad sage fell to a heap at the emperor's feet, gulping down mass quantities of air. Despite his near-death experience at the hands of his estranged godson, Jiraiya felt he deserved it. For abandoning his godson in the aftermath of the Sasuke retrieval mission. "Chakra-induced strength," Jiraiya said as he rubbed his neck. Tsunade would have been proud. Naruto ignored the comment. He walked past the hacking man and took a seat upon his throne. "How did you find me?" he asked, still angry, but not angry enough to show the older man what his insides looked like, his eyes still golden. Jiraiya shakily rose to his feet. "You were last seen heading towards Wave Country from Cloud, after being seen leaving with the two tails. Never thought that you would end up here. You're also well known back east as the one who unified the West since era of the Six Paths," he explained. "Since everyone here knows who you are, it was pretty easy to track you down. You still haven't answered my first question. Without saying that you wanted to see how your godson is doing, what are you doing here?" Jiraiya flinched when Naruto pronounced godson with sarcasm. Minato and Kushina would skin him alive if they were still living if they had found out what their son had went through. Then again, open hostility from the former Konoha genin was something to be expected. I screwed up big time, Jiraiya began. I can honestly admit that now. For not being there for you when you were growing up and when you were banished, I am truly sorry. I see Minato in you, and because of that, part of me did blame you for his death. That was the main reason behind why I stood aside when the orders came down to retrieve the Uchiha. When I heard that you were banished, I decided to do the right thing for once. The Forbidden Scroll and your heritage, that was my doing. Ironically, the Forbidden Scroll once belonged to your father. Naruto's eyes widened in realization. It was Jiraiya who had tracked him down outside Wave while staying overnight with Tazuma and his family, and had delivered both the scroll and his heritage. Flashback. Wave Country, 7 years earlier. Tracking down Naruto was easy enough. He was friends with the bridge builder, who was more than willing to offer the banished ninja a place to stay for the night, before leaving the following morning. Sneaking in was easy enough, an open window inside Inari's bedroom, where the bridge builder's grandson and his godson were both fast asleep. Jiraiya simply stood there, watching Naruto sleep. Ever since hearing about the banishment upon returning to Konoha to report on the Akatsuki, he was disgusted at not only Tsunade for not trying any harder to stop the council, but at the council, both shinobi and civilian, who had decided to kiss the Uchiha's ass and banish him for being the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. He was even furious at the majority of his godson's former teammates, especially the pink-haired Banshee, who kept calling for his death. And that scarecrow of a sensei who devoted more time in training Sasuke than the other two. More importantly, he was disgusted with himself for not being there when the order came down to retrieve Uchiha. He saw the looks of disgust on Naruto's teammates when Tsunade had told them about the burden he carried. It was after he had retrieved both Naruto's legacy and the Forbidden Scroll that he vowed that not only that as long as Naruto was banished, then he nor his spy network would not serve the Leaf. After coming into contact with the Princess of Spring, who was shooting a movie in the Fire Capital, she was more than willing to offer him and his network political asylum once she found out about Naruto's banishment. Since leaving Konoha, Naruto was dogged by a squad of Rude and Byu, as well as Hunter Ninja. Even Itachi Uchiha and his partner Kisame Hoshigaki increased their efforts in trying to capture the Jinchuriki. But he was not known as the unpredictable knucklehead ninja for nothing, as he had used his shadow clones to keep his pursuers occupied. It was only through sheer dumb luck that Jiraiya had came across Naruto's location. For a moment, Jiraiya stood silent. Then he reached behind his back and retrieved the Forbidden Scroll of Sealing, as well as a smaller scroll containing not only Naruto's birth certificate but also the bank accounts of the Namikaze family fortune, located in T Country, and placed it at the foot of Naruto's bed. The blonde ninja remained sleeping. His task done, Jiraiya left the same way he came. "You got a lot of nerve showing you face here, Toad Sage." Jiraiya stopped in mid-step and turned around, finding himself face-to-face with Yujito-ni. Kunais in her hands, the former Kumo Kunoichi/Ichibi Jinchuriki was ready to attack. "I'm not here to fight," Jiraiya said as Yujito advanced on him. The old hermit then recognized her. She was not dressed like a kunoichi, but there was her chakra signature. "You're Yujito-ni, of Kumo." Jinchuriki, to the Nibi, the two-tailed monster cat. "I'm no longer with the cloud," Yujito replied, stopping in mid-step. "Without the knowledge of both A and Killer B, the council decided to sell me out to the Akatsuki. If it wasn't for the kid, I would have been captured, or worse. He told me everything. The Gaki and I are both Nuknin without a home. And because I owe him my life, I and the Two Tails will protect him from all threats. At least I know that he's safe," Jiraiya said. "I just dropped by to deliver his legacy and inheritance." "You mean he doesn't know that he is the son of the Yellow Flash of Konoha?" Off Jiraiya's surprised expression, Yujito continued. "It's pretty damn obvious since he looks like his old man. Namikaze a legend, given how he wiped out most of Iwa's ninja forces with the Hiroshin. Don't worry. I'll let him find out on his own. In the morning, we'll be gone." "Probably for the best," Jiraiya said. "The kid probably hates me for not backing him up." For his sake, tell him that you didn't see me. End flashback. Seeing as how he held the young emperor's attention, Jiraiya continued with his explanation. I knew you would hate me, so I did not come and see you when you were banished. That and Minato and Kushina would kill me for not being there for you, so I did the next best thing. Following your banishment, Konoha tried to send Hunter Ninja and ANBU after you, as well as placing you in the bingo book as a S-class missing nin, but fortunately, your old man had friends in high places. Naruto could only guess. My father knew the Fire Daimyo? Jiraiya nodded. Your father rescued the Daimyo's daughters during the last shinobi war when they were kidnapped by IWA ninja. When I told him everything that has happened to you, the Fire Daimyo decided to intervene on your behalf. I was there in disguise as one of the Daimyo's guards when he went to Konoha to personally end the attempts on your life. Believe me when I say that the council was pissed. Flashback. Konohagakure no Sato, 7 years earlier. The Uchiha will not face criminal charges, as he was under the influence of the cursed seal, Koharu Udatain was saying to the council. Tsunade Senju was not pleased. That does not mean that he will be punished for his attempted defection, the Godame intoned. He will be placed under house arrest until I see fit that he will return to active duty, and will remain a genin for the next 3 years. Furthermore, Cell 7 is immediately dissolved. Captain Hitaki has shown that he is not capable of leading a team of genin due to his blatant favoritism and will be placed back inside the ANBU. Haruno will be reassigned to another cell. The civilian side of the council had no problem in agreeing with Tsunade's request. They were in a good mood, as they had finally gotten rid of the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, circumventing around Tsunade's authority in order to do so. Even more better was the fact that the majority of the Konoha 11 saw him as the Fox Reborn. Meaning that it would be easy to get them to kill the container the next time they see him. Hamura Mitokado then spoke next. Our next order of business is the Kyuubi Jinchuriki himself. I propose that he will be placed in the bingo book as a S-ranked missing ninja with orders to kill on sight. Turning to Tsunade, he cut her off, noting the furious expression on her face, his tone slightly smug. The boy is a danger. Who know what he will do? He is unpredictable, and now that he has been banished, he could take his revenge on Konoha. Turning to the council, he said. All those in favor of placing Naruto Uzumaki in the bingo book as a S-ranked missing ninja? Before a vote could be taken, the chamber's doors opened and the Daimyo's personal guard stepped inside, ready to execute their lord's will. Hayashi Hyuga was on his feet. This is a private meeting, he barked. You dare interrupt this honorable council? I dare, Hyuga, the Fire Daimyo intoned as he stepped inside, causing the Hyuga clan head to do a very uncharacteristic eep at his arrival. The old man's face showed genuine discontent of the council who had orchestrated the banishment of Minato's son, and the Hokage, who was helpless to stop them. The council and Tsunade bowed in respect of the ruler of Fire Country. Lord Daimyo, to what we owe the honor of your visit today? Hamura asked. The Daimyo looked around before he began to speak. I have received word from a very creditable source that this so-called honorable council are attempting to place a boy in the bingo book for the sole reason of being the Jinchuriki to the Nine Tails, he deadpanned. At that sentence, the council chamber went silent. Their scheme was finally exposed. The Daimyo caught the looks on the council's faces. So, it is true. Hayashi was the first to quickly reply to the Daimyo's accusation. My lord, while that alone is a valid reason, it is not the main reason, he stated. The Daimyo turned to Hayashi. Do you think I am stupid, Hyuga? He asked in an ice-cold tone. Please, tell me. Wisely, Hayashi kept his mouth shut, since he wanted to keep his head. Coming from you, Hyuga. I am most surprised to see that you of all people defending the Uchiha, given the bad blood between your clan and the Uchiha. I'm willing to bet you were very happy when most of them were slaughtered. I have seen the mission parameters for the Uchiha retrieval mission, and you banished the boy solely for doing his job. If anything, the Uchiha should be banished, if not executed outright, for his attempted defection from the Leaf, as well as nearly causing the deaths of his teammates, as well as the visiting envoy from Suna who was also sent along for the mission. One of the civilians rose up in protest. Tsunade recognized her as Asana Haruno, Sakura's mother and the leader of the Konoha Mercantile Guild. My lord, he is the last of the Uchiha clan. He is needed here. Advisor Udatane verified it herself. The Uchiha was under the influence of the cursed seal. No. You value only the Uchiha Sharingan to the point that this pathetic council will banish an innocent boy for something that was not in his control, the daimyo shot back, causing the council member to sit back down in fright. And concerning Udatane's claim, it's a bunch of crap. Udatane is not a seal master. That is just an excuse. The Uchiha left the village of his own accord, and you were more than willing to sacrifice your own ninja to bring him back. But back to the matter at hand. You banished the Uzumaki boy on trumped-up charges for using excessive force, yet he was more injured than the Uchiha. And now, you wish to place him in the bingo book solely because he is the jailer of the Nine Tails. He began to count off on his fingers. 1. You had overrode the authority of your Hokage to have him banished, ergo, you cannot label him as a missing ninja. 2. I see no reason to have him placed in the book, nor send Hunter Ninja after him, since he is not a criminal. The third reason is strictly political. Off their confused looks, the daimyo decided to explain. My counterpart in Wind Country spoke highly of the Uzumaki boy, as he had helped the Suna Jinchuriki, and also saw that he was wrong in cutting their military aid. The Princess of Spring Country, as well as the unified people of Wave Country, also hold the boy in high regards for his actions, as does countless others. My own influence will decrease should he is placed in the bingo book. The council knew what was coming. Danza rose from his seat. My lord, please, the Kyubi Jinchuriki is a threat to the Leaf. He must be dealt with while we have the chance. The daimyo cut him off with a glare. If I remember correctly, Shimura, you do not dictate what I should do. I am the Lord of Fire Country. Not you. Are we clear? Yes. Sir, Danza grated as he slid back into his seat. Even the Warhawk knew better than to go against the Fire Lord. The Fire daimyo then made his judgment. While I cannot reverse the banishment orders, I can issue the following edict. Naruto Uzumaki will not be placed in the bingo book, nor will you continue to send Hunter Ninja after him. This is my final word on this matter. If I find out that he is placed inside or you continue to send your ANBU after him, not only will I have the entire Konoha Council, civilian and shinobi executed for high treason against Fire Country, but Sasuke Uchiha will be executed as well. Any protests the council was planning on making instantly died in their mouths. They knew that the Fire daimyo was serious. Dead serious. Seeing as the council was willed into submission, the daimyo nodded. Glad you decided to see things my way. As of this moment, the matter regarding Uzumaki is closed. End flashback. Jiraiya had finished his tale to Naruto, who stood there in silence. After a moment, Naruto nodded in respect towards the older man. I'm still angry over your actions, Jiraiya, but I will still give you credit where it's due. Thank you for giving me my heritage and protecting me against that damned council. Jiraiya beamed. Maybe things between Naruto and himself could be mended after all. Tsunade was against the banishment in general. But her hands were tied, as the decision from both shinobi and civilian was all but unanimous. She fought tooth and nail for you, kid, but it was not enough. The council had originally planned on executing you, but Tsunade overruled them. Lot of good that would have done, Naruto snorted. If I had died, the furball would have been released and free to go to town. Dad may have been good with the seal, but even he forgot that one little detail. She should have done more, instead of caving into the council's demands of banishing me and kissing Uchiha's ass. Jiraiya saw that Naruto's eyes had turned back to normal. What's with your eyes? It's my bloodline, Naruto explained. A gift from you-know-who. The fox gave that to you? The emperor nodded. I call it fox eye. Raising one hand, Naruto produced a Rasengan, while at the same time activating his bloodline. Then he pumped his wind-based chakra into the technique, causing the ball of chakra to shift into the shape of a Fuma shuriken. The fox eye basically allows me to unleash Senjutsu-level attacks. Given my enormous chakra reserves, it is indeed a formidable bloodline. Its power could rival even the Rinnegan and the eternal Magenkyu Sharingan. Before I got the fox eye, it would normally take 2 clones to help me with the Rasen Shuriken. Now, I can do this with no problem. The former Konoha ninja banished the jutsu and returned his eyes to normal. Of course, the fox eye also has several benefits as well. Seeing as how I am a seal master like Dad, it increases the effectiveness of my seals 100-fold. Came in pretty handy when I dealt with Haiden and Kazuku. Plus, it also makes me immune from Genjutsu, including the Magenkyu's Tsukiyomi, and it nullifies the Sharingan's ability to copy any jutsu. Impressive, Jiraiya said. Naruto leaned back in his throne. Does Konoha know about me? He asked. Yes, and no. Yes, they know about your exploits and deeds, as the one who united the West. Fortunately, with the exception of Suna and Mist, your identity is unknown. I haven't been back in Konoha, following your banishment. Demio Fujikaze was nice enough to offer me asylum in spring after I explained everything to her. Yuki does have a kind heart. I can only imagine Konoha's reaction if they found out I was the emperor of the Western Empire, Naruto muttered. Especially Danzu. He's a sneaky little shit that has dug himself deep within the leaf. Then there's Iwa and Orochimaru. Actually, speaking of the snake, there is another reason why I decided to come here to speak with you, Jiraiya said. At the same time, in Konoha, the reports from the border patrols looked grim. Lightning and Earth had closed off its borders. Even worse, rumors were coming in that the Raikage had been overthrown and replaced with a more hardline Kage. A and his brother, Killer B, were missing. Even more worse, said Kage had slaughtered most of the Lightning Demio's family, with the exception of a select few, who managed to escape. And to top it off, Iwa has a brand new Tsuchikage, following the suspicious death of Oniki. But that was not the worst of the news that had dampened Tsunade Senju's day. The worst news was that Kumo and Iwa had formed an alliance with Orochimaru and his sound ninja. That meant only one thing: war was inevitable. At the moment, the Godame was in a meeting with the Konoha Council. Ever since that day 7 years ago, Tsunade had come to despise the council for what they had done. No one, from the shinobi clans to the civilians, stood up for Naruto. Even worse, when she revealed Naruto's burden as the Kyuubi Jinchuriki in an attempt to see the kind of hero he was, the Konoha 11, with the exception of Hinata, had turned their backs on him. She had notified the council of the recent events, and suffice to say, things looked grim for the Leaf. Against one of the major shinobi powers, they stood a chance of survival. But against 2 major shinobi powers who both have a grudge against Konoha and a rogue sage hellbent on destroying the Leaf, the situation looked grim. Tsunade called for silence. It's apparent that this is going to be a 3-on-1 battle. If by some miracle we manage to survive, then it will take years for Konoha to rebuild its forces. What we need is another force involved. To everyone's surprise, Danzu Shimura nodded in agreement. Although I hate to admit it, Lady Hokage is right, the Warhawk/Root commander seconded. The Leaf needs another ally if we plan on surviving this war. I, for one, do not wish to see Konoha lost to the ages. Inoichi Yamanaka spoke next. The idea of an alliance sounds feasible, but who in the elemental nations would join us? Suna would be our number 1 choice, but they revoked the alliance when we banished the Uzumaki boy, and refused to have nothing to do with us. Following that, Spring, Snow, Iron, Tea, and Wave revoked their alliance and trade agreements with the Leaf, as well as with Fire Country. It is true that we no longer have to worry about the Ninetales, but it is apparent that by banishing the boy, it did more harm to the Leaf than good. The council members begrudgingly had to agree. Following Naruto's banishment, Suna had sent an envoy demanding an explanation as to why Naruto was banished. The time was extremely bad on Konoha's part, as there was a citywide party celebrating Naruto's banishment in full swing. When the reason was given, i.e., Naruto's excessive force during the Sasuke retrieval mission, along with being the Kyuubi's jailer, Suna had literally tore the alliance to shreds. Aside from that, Konohamaru Sarutobi, Asuma's nephew and Hiruzen's grandson, had abandoned Konoha, along with Moegi and Udon, and left for Suna with the envoy, the trio knowing full well of Naruto's burden as the Nine Tails, since Naruto himself had told them. That incident still haunts Asuma to this very day. By siding with the council solely on fear, he had effectively lost the remaining member of his family. His marriage to Kurenai and the birth of his daughter Hitomi helped somewhat, but he felt like he had failed his father. The next time Asuma would see him, Konohamaru would be participating in the Chunin exams in Suna. Following Suna terminating their alliance, the various trade agreements and alliances had fallen through. Wave had broken off trade agreements, as did Tea, Iron, and Spring, as well as numerous others. Even Jiraiya was on Naruto's side, as they had lost the use of his spy network. The search parties that Tsunade, and Danzo using his route, had sent out found nothing of the missing Toad Sage. Not to mention the Fire Daimyo, who had forbidden the council to place the former Jinchuriki into the bingo book, on threat of execution of both the entire council and that of Sasuke Uchiha. All attempts to rebuild Konoha's reputation had all been futile. When asked why the neighboring villages and countries had terminated their alliances and agreements, everyone's response was the same. They favored a ninja who was more than willing to betray his village for power and banished a ninja who was a hero. In layman's terms, Naruto wasn't to blame, but Sasuke Uchiha for his attempted defection from the Leaf. And having a village known for its chronic backstabbing part of any kind of alliance or agreement would be bad for business. In those 8 years, it was clear that the Leaf was now a mere shadow of its former glory. Wherever the Leaf went, they would receive a rather cold reception. In some cases, they were not welcome into some of the villages. As it had been evident when Suna hosted the Chunin exams. Inoichi is correct, Suminazuka concurred. But the main problem is, how can we forge an alliance when most of the villages despise us? That damned Kyuubi brat cost us every single alliance we had when we threw him out. Lucky for her, she didn't notice Tsunade's hand ball up into a fist. However, the Inuzuka matriarch felt a cold chill run down her spine as she felt murderous intent being directed at her. The Pharaoh clan head decided that it was best for her to shut up. What about the unified West? Everyone turned to the source of the voice. Seated on the shinobi side of the council was the last active member of the now-defunct Cell 7, Sasuke Uchiha. Following Naruto's banishment and Tsunade's revealing Naruto's secret, Sasuke was the diametric opposite of the rest of the ninja. Unlike his own childhood, Sasuke had grown to respect, albeit a bit grudgingly, the burden that Naruto had carried, not to mention the level of restraint that Naruto had. Even he saw that he was not the Nine Tails reborn, and with that kind of power, he could easily destroy Konoha should he wish. He also blamed himself for being seduced by the promise of power from Orochimaru, which led to the events that ended with Naruto's banishment. Despite not being trusted for his attempted defection to Orochimaru, Sasuke had worked hard for his rank of Chunin, and later, Jounin, and had gained a seat on the council, and as one of the chief advisors to Tsunade. To the shinobi side of the council, despite their obvious mistrust of the last Uchiha, the idea did show merit. They had heard about a young boy who had emerged in the West and had launched a war of unification, uniting the lands in less than 2 years and having been proclaimed the Emperor of the West. Suna is pretty friendly with the Empire, Sasuke continued. Aside from that, it's apparent that Suna has a military alliance with the Western Empire. Given that it had came to the Sans aid during the Akatsuki invasion, it is clear that the Empire has some pretty powerful warriors within their ranks, both shinobi and samurai. The Emperor himself is said to be a powerful warrior, trained in both the shinobi arts and the way of the samurai. From our past encounters with him, it's safe to say that he is highly skilled and incredibly strong, stronger than even the legendary sages themselves. Indeed, Danzo thought. That boy has proven to be stronger than my elite root. Were he a Konoha ninja, I would have made him into my right-hand man. He shows even more promise than the Uchiha. And his elite guard, if they are strong enough to decimate my root, then such a power could be extremely useful for Konoha. As to the rumors of the emperor himself being a skilled and powerful warrior, several of the shinobi clan heads, higher-ranking jounin and special jounin can attest to that fact, albeit painfully. It had all started 2 years ago when Akatsuki members Haiden and Kazuku slaughtered the warrior monk Chiriku and his fellow monks inside their temple. The emperor himself, who was on an inspection tour of the Pekora merchant houses with the Shinzens and traveling incognito, personally intervened. Tracking down Haiden and Kazuku near an underground bounty station, the emperor brought Haiden's Jashin ritual and cursed jutsu to a halt, thus saving Asuma's life. As Kazuku and Asuma watched in complete shock, the emperor nullified Haiden's immortality with a special set of seals. Right before severing his head from his body, killing the foul-mouthed priest/ninja. Then he turned his attention to Kazuku, destroying each of his hearts before severing his own head as well. To add insult to injury, he collected the bounties on both men. Moments later, the Inoshikacho trio arrived. Assuming the worst, they attacked the man in black, only to be sledgehammered back. Their injuries were not fatal, but they would be out of action for a couple of days. Asuma, however, would be incapacitated for several months. But after Asuma had explained everything, it was clear that he owed the mystery man his life, and that he knew his old comrade in arms, which means that he was out simply to avenge Chiriku. Tsunade was not convinced, and with the council's backing, issued the following order: bring the man in black to Konoha for questioning. Following the Inoshikacho's defeat, several more Konoha ninja would face the emperor, and fail. Danzo was the first to jump on those orders. He dispatched 20 of his root ANBU led by Sai to the Fire Sound border, where the man in black had paid for the burial of Chiriku and his fellow monks. Danzo himself tagged along, hoping to see his root take down the mystery man, as he was complacent in their superiority. At the ruins of Fire Temple, Danzo confronted the man in black, who was flanked by the Shinzens and his 6-man elite guard. The Warhawk delivered the ultimatum: come quietly or there will be trouble. The man in black was not amused, and gave the order to attack. In the ensuing battle, his elite guard took down half of the root ANBU, while the man in black himself was credited with talking out the remaining half, Sai included, leaving nothing but broken bodies in his wake. Danzo was shocked. The 20 men that accompanied him were the pick of the litter, and the mystery man and his entourage had taken them down without breaking a sweat. In desperation, he removed his bandages that covered his implanted Sharingan, only to find that his trump card had no effect, forcing the Warhawk to fight the man in black in a sword duel. 5 minutes later, Danzo himself joined his root in unconsciousness. In Spring Country, the first-generation Inoshikacho trio confronted the mystery man while he was visiting the Spring Daimyo/actress Yuki Fujikaze, and were soundly defeated, if not just as fast as their offspring. In Tea Country, it was Rock Lee, Niji Hyuga, and Tenten, who had seen the man while one of his elite guards was competing in a martial arts tournament. Out of Team Guy, Tenten got off pretty light with several angry welts from when she was smacked repeatedly with the flat side of the man's katana. Rock Lee and the man would later fight in a taijutsu match, and despite Lee's best efforts, was also defeated. Niji would go on to fight him, sprouting that fate has deemed him the winner. You deserve praise for making it this far, Niji had said before their fight. But your luck ends here. As it is fate for me to be a member of the branch family of the Hyuga, fate has deemed me as the winner. I will defeat you and bring you back to Konoha. I never got this far by living my life bound to fate, the man in black replied. Fate and honor are designed for one thing. They are designed by weak people to keep the strong in line. There is no such thing as fate. There is only choice. The choice to do what is right. The choice to make your own destiny. You lie. No one can change their fate. There was one who said the same thing, but he turned out to be a demon in disguise. You will see soon enough. I will show you why I am considered the best in the Hyuga clan. The man in black had sighed. At first, I was just going to fight you. Now, I'm gonna kick your ass. In the ensuing battle, the Emperor would send the Hyuga prodigy to the hospital along with his teammates, the Hyuga prodigy getting the worst of the beatdown. Heh, the man in black chuckled as Niji had lost consciousness. You claimed to be the best, but you fell like the rest. Near the lightning border, Asuma Sarutobi, now recovered from his injuries, along with Shino and Shibi Aburame came across the man in black. Fortunately for them, they did not fight him, having decided to hide in the shadows as they watched the man in black fight both Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki. The two Akatsuki had been given new orders from Nagato, seeing as how Naruto has disappeared, retrieve the renegade mist Jinchuriki Utakata. The three Konoha Jounin watched as the man in black, supported by three of his elite guards, faced down the renegade Uchiha and his partner. Or rather, the man in black did. It was during this battle that the three had gotten some vital information about their opponent. 1. His sword had the ability to split in two. 2. It was more than a match for Kisame Samahata. 3. Itachi's Magenkyu Sharingan proved to be ineffective against the man in black. It also explained the reason why the Sharingan was not effective to Danzu. Nice try, Uchiha, the man in black had said. Your Mangenkyu is no match for my bloodline, if I can be so modest. Not only it increases the power of my jutsu and seals to rival the power of the legendary sages, it also makes me immune from all forms of Jinjutsu, including your dreaded Tsukiyomi. This can end in two ways. And in both of them, the Rokubi Jinchuriki comes with me. You make it sound like we have no choice, was Itachi's reply. You don't, the man in black replied as if he was asking the time. It's my way, or, screw it, it's my way. Itachi and Kisame then attacked. But since Samahata had to absorb chakra to be effective, it ended up draining Kisame's chakra, allowing him to be dispatched quickly. Then he fought Itachi. Asuma and the two Aburame saw that the man was merely toying with the fallen Uchiha, Itachi having been forced to fight since his trump card was ineffective. Then the man ended the battle by catching Itachi with chakra-absorbing chains. With both Itachi and his partner immobilized, the man in black made his retreat with his elite guards and his prize, but not before promising Itachi that the next time they meet, he will personally kill him. Deciding that discretion was the better part of valor, the three Jounin retreated back to Konoha. The man was later seen in hot water country. Tsunade dispatched the Inuzuka matriarch and her son, along with Kakashi Hatake, to bring the man in black in. This was the only time that the emperor has fought back so viciously. Both Tsum and Kiba performed their beast mimicry, transforming Kuramaru and Akamaru into clones of themselves, while Kakashi summoned 5 shadow clones. The two Inuzuka and Kakashi found out the hard way that the man was very skilled in taijutsu. First, he disposed of Kuramaru and Akamaru in a specialized net created to drain chakra, before turning his attention to the three Jounin. In the end, Kiba ended up with a broken nose and jaw. Tsum also had a broken nose and a broken collarbone. But Kakashi had it the worst. 6 broken ribs, his jaw and nose broken, 1 ruptured eye socket, his right hand and leg broken, and the emperor's boot up his ass. Literally. The 3 ninja were found by a backup group of ANBU and had to be carried back to Konoha. Kakashi was unable to sit right for 3 weeks. With the Inuzukas and Kakashi down for the count, it was up to Anko Madarashi, Madogai, and Hayashi Hyuga. This time around, a 10-man squad of ANBU came along to assist. After the epic beatdown that the Inuzukas and Kakashi had endured, Tsunade wasn't leaving nothing to chance. The battle took place inside the ruins of the Whirlpool Village in Wave Country. Only this time, the Emperor's elite guards were with him as the Emperor investigated the ruins. The first thing that the Snake Mistress, the Taijutsu Master, and the Hyuga clan had found out was that the man was of noble blood, as his family was of the Whirlpool ruling family, something that Hayashi could respect. The second was that despite having superior numbers, his elite guards had literally dismantled the ANBU that were sent in. Anko, Hayashi, and Guy would fall, thus adding to the mystery man's tally of defeated Konoha ninja. In desperation, the council had once again circumvented Tsunade's authority and reactivated Sasuke Uchiha to active duty. It was during the Chunin exams in Suna that Sasuke had faced off against the man in black, who was there as Gaara's guest. Despite being the Uchiha elite, Sasuke lost, but not before the man had revealed his identity to him. "I am the sovereign ruler of the unified West," he had whispered. "The Maverick Emperor, the Crimson Fury of the Empire," the man had said right before knocking him out cold. Upon returning to Konoha, the battered Uchiha gave his report to the council. Naturally, the council did not believe him. Only when a visiting Pequor merchant had verified Sasuke's testimony did Konoha backed off. The last thing they wanted was an irate emperor declaring war over a misunderstanding. A war which could easily lead to Konoha's destruction. The one thing Sasuke found strange about the emperor was the fact that he knew exactly how the Konoha ninja fought. He outsmarted both generations of the Ino Shikacho trio, took apart Danzu and his Root Anbu, countered the Hyuga's Juken, outfought both Guy and Lee, brutally took down both the Inuzuka matriarch and her son, sent Kakashi to the hospital numerous broken bones and the inability not to sit straight for several weeks, left Anko with a concussion, and was able to defeat even himself in battle. Even more amazing was that he defeated Itachi and his partner. Something that even he was unable to do. After talking it over with Shikamaru and his father, all three came to the same conclusion. The emperor was highly skilled in weapons combat, as well as ninjutsu and taijutsu. His fighting style was direct, professional, and in some cases, incredibly brutal, designed to maim or even kill, and his tactical prowess was flawless, meaning that the emperor could easily be a SS-rank criminal with an order to flee on sight should he was placed inside the bingo book. But the emperor was holding back in all of his fights. It showed that the emperor was courteous enough not to kill them, but showed that he was the wrong person to cross in a fight. Unknown to Sasuke, both Shikamaru and his father had suspected that the emperor could have spies in Fire Country, which explained how he was able to defeat them so easily. Or maybe the emperor himself was connected to Konoha in some way. Shikaku had ordered his son to keep silent on the matter, until they got some more proof concerning the man in black. Unfortunately, the Akatsuki did not get the memo. When the Akatsuki had invaded Suna 2 years earlier, the Western Empire came to Suna's aid. The battle lasted for only 3 hours, but in the end, the Akatsuki was routed and destroyed to the last man. The Jinchuriki that the emperor had retrieved had played a major part in the battle, not to mention that 2 of the founding members of the Akatsuki had fought on the emperor's side. Since the Akatsuki desired the power of the tailed beasts, the emperor simply gave it to them, in spades. Sasuke was among the 10 Konoha ninja along with Tsunade, Asuma, Kakashi, and Ino that went to Suna to offer aid in an attempt to get back on their good side, only to find that the battle was over. Despite the fact that over half of Suna was left in ruins, all Akatsuki members, from Nagato, who had been corrupted, to Madara Uchiha himself, were killed. However, before throwing the Konoha ninja out, Sasuke was allowed to see the body of his brother, Itachi Uchiha. Sasuke was of mixed emotions when he saw the body of Itachi next to that of Madara. The murderer of the Uchiha clan was finally slain, but he was upset that he did not do the deed. Now, he truly was the last of the Uchiha. One memory stood out in particular. He saw the emperor, who was clad entirely in black, complete with a solid black Kage's hat to conceal his face, walking alongside a shorter woman, her face concealed by a conical straw hat, and Gaara in his battle uniform. When Tsunade asked who the mystery man was, their escort, who just so happened to be a battered and bruised Konohamaru Sarutobi, now Maru Sarutobi and Asuna Chunin, simply said that he was the Western Emperor, the woman was his wife, and an ally to Suna. "I don't like it," Hayashi Hyuga said. "Why the Empire? We know close to nothing about their military, let alone their resources or economy. What if the Emperor refuses?" or forces Konoha to serve him? Everyone inside the council chambers knew that Hayashi Hyuga was a proud man. Too proud. His distrust of the emperor ran deep. The battle down at the Whirlpool Ruins had all but knocked him off his glorified pedestal, leaving him even more colder and more bitter. He thought that just because he was the clan leader, that he could easily do what his nephew, a member of the branch family, couldn't. The flaw of your own power is arrogance, the emperor had told him, right before punching the word jerk into his forehead. This was after when he explained to Enko the reason why Hinata was not out here was that she was still a weakling in his eyes. The only time Hayashi could leave the compound afterward was when he had his forehead covered. It took 3 weeks for the bruise to finally fade. Enko, despite her own injuries, always rubbed it in the face of the stoic Hyuga, that he was better off behind the desk instead of out in the field. But the biggest slap to the face up to date was during the Chunin exams in Suna. His daughter, Hanabi Hyuga, called the darling of the Hyuga clan, faced off against Maru Sarutobi. In a climatic battle not seen in many years, it was the Sandame's grandson who had defeated his daughter. It didn't help that Sarutobi had used her arrogance against her, or that he was able to steal his grandfather's summoning contract before he had left for Suna. It was later revealed that Sarutobi and his 2 friends were personally trained by the emperor himself, at the Kazakuchi's request. Hayashi was incensed at this loss of face. Second, was the fact that Hinata had defected from Konoha following the conclusion of the Chunin exams. Upon returning to Konoha, he had received Hinata's Hitayate and a message from the courier ninja. Hinata has defected from both Konoha and the Leaf. Hanabi capitalized on this by convincing the Hyuga elders to place a bounty on her head. Hinata was also placed inside the bingo book as a A-ranked missing ninja. It would be a year later before Hinata would resurface. When she did, she was with the Empire. In Hot Water Country. Niji and Hanabi Hyuga would encounter her after she had beaten 10 of the Hyuga main branch ninja. Hayashi remembered that incident all too well. Those 10 main branch members were the ones who had ridiculed Hinata and harassed Hinata when she was given the caged bird seal and shoved into the cadet branch. When Niji and Hanabi found them, not only did Hinata had beaten them, but she had also branded the most senior member with the caged bird seal in retaliation. Said Hyuga had chosen to commit suicide rather than to live with the disgrace. Hours later, Niji and Hanabi encountered the former heiress. Assuming that against Hinata, Niji and Hanabi had an easy win. But Hinata knew the Juken style better than anyone. In fact, in her absence, Hayashi would later find out that she had purged it of all its flaws and weaknesses, and proceeded to beat down Hanabi, while unleashing the 128 palms on Niji as a measure of payback from the Chunin exams. She then had Hanabi deliver a challenge to her ex-father. Hayashi accepted. The battle had taken place in Wave Country. Hayashi was certain as Hyuga clan head that he would win. He was wrong. His encounter with his missing daughter had left him even more bitter and crippled. He had severely underestimated Hinata and paid for it. The one person who he thought was worthless had all but decimated him. First, by using the 128 palms on him, then by shattering his leg. He would never be an active ninja again. The fact that it was Hinata that had did it had angered him to no end. The end result was an increase on the bounty on Hinata's head. However, the emperor retaliated by placing a bounty not on Hayashi's head but on Hanabi. And it was 3 times as much as the bounty on Hinata's head. Fearing that even the Konoha ninja would take his remaining heir, Hayashi decided to back down and the bounties on Hinata and Hanabi were lifted. Your discord is duly noted, Hyuga, Tsunade remarked. Still, Advisor Uchiha does have a point. Should we get the emperor on our side, then this war could end before it can start. What else do we know about him, aside from the fact that he took out most of our seasoned jounin and clan heads? I was at the Pequar merchant house at the capital, Asuma began, and from what I've heard about the emperor is that he treats his visitors with great care and respect. Despite being only around 19, he is a brilliant politician and handles all foreign affairs personally. Given the fact that they have merchant houses all over, their economy is excellent. He also has a reputation for honor and fairness. So much so that Waterfall and Smoke, both traditional enemies, appealed to him to settle a dispute. Can't hurt to try, Tsunade said. I will summon Captains Hitaki and Sarutobi and have them lead an envoy from here to the west. Any other business? Silence. This meeting is adjourned. No. Naruto, please. I said no, Naruto snapped. Have you any idea what you're asking me to do, Jiraiya? You're asking me to defend a place that saw me as the Nine-Tails, instead of the hero my father wanted me to be. If anything, I'll be glad to see the snake and his buddies raze that damned place to the ground just so I can piss on the ashes. Jiraiya blinked. You know that Orochimaru is planning to attack? The young emperor nodded. You're not the only one with an impressive spy network, Jiraiya. That was one of the things I picked up from you. Ever notice those merchant houses that surfaced recently? The Toad Sage nodded. The Pequor merchant house? I've seen them around. Aside from serving as a mercantile guild, some of them also serve as spies serving my empire, Naruto explained. I got locations in Suna, Kumo, Iwa, and even in the Fire Capital. The ones in Kumo and Iwa contain my spy network. Kumo overthrew A 3 years earlier. I rescued both him and B and offered them sanctuary here. Whether you like it nor not, there is another war on the horizon, Jiraiya replied. A fourth shinobi war. And if Orochimaru or Iwa find out who you are, they will come for you. I know you want to protect your people and country, kid, but you can't fight fate. Naruto scoffed. You sound a lot like Neji. He said the same thing during the Chunin exams and down in Tea Country. There is no such thing as fate. There is only choice. It was Kokoha's choice to banish me. It was Tsunade's choice to reveal my secret to the Konoha 11. And it was my choice to unify the lands. And you got a choice now, the Toad Sage said in a calm voice, not noticing that Hinata has slipped inside the throne room. The choice to prove that you are better than Konoha. The choice to prove that you are better than me. I know you, kid. You never let your hatred cloud your judgment, nor you never left your people in their darkest hour. He approached the throne and placed one hand on his former student's shoulder. Prove it to Konoha. Prove it to them that you are not what they say you are. Naruto brushed Jiraiya's hand off his shoulder and turned away. Jiraiya did bring up some good points, but his bad experiences in Konoha far outweighed the good. He fought in the Sunasand invasion and was still scorned. He brought Tsunade to Konoha to be the Godame and was shunned. To top it off, he retrieved Sasuke Uchiha and was rewarded with banishment backed by both the civilian and shinobi councils, and betrayed by those he thought were friends. All except Hinata. What about Hinata? Are you willing to let her die? Naruto's response was simple. Why don't you ask her that yourself? She's right behind you. Jiraiya turned around and found himself face to face with a smug empress consort. Even more surprising was that he could sense her chakra levels. Since Jiraiya was a sage, he recognized that aura as one of sage-like power. Another thing that Jiraiya noticed was that Hinata looked, well, hot. With beauty like that, men were more than willing to go to war for. Hello, Toad Sage, Hinata greeted dryly, taking note of the red handprint on his neck. You're the one from Fire Country, I take it? Wah, Hinata, how? I think I should explain, Naruto said as Hinata walked past him and took a seat on the throne. 2 years ago, Suna was hosting the Chunin exams. Gaara had asked me to train Maru, Moegi, and Udon for the exams. Hinata was there along with Kiba and Sakura. Flashback. Sunigakure no Sato, Wind Country, 2 years earlier. From his position, Naruto watched the confrontation near the village's gates. He recognized Team Kurenai as well as Sakura and Kakashi. The older people were acting as chaperones for the Konoha Genin participating in the tournament. We might not be able to see how the Genin are doing until tomorrow, Kiba had said to Hinata. How about once we get settled in, we check out the sights? Hinata was starting to get irritated. For the last time? Kiba, my answer is no. It was at that moment, Kiba exploded. The dog ninja grabbed Hinata and forcibly spun her around. Why do you still care for that demon? Kiba shouted. He was banished, because he is the Kyuubi incarnate. You heard Tsunade yourself. He can't come back, and if he does, I'll kill him myself. From his hiding spot, Naruto's eye twitched. He was about ready to neuter the dog lover when Hinata quickly responded. Wham! Kiba staggered back from Hinata, the latter having smashed her palm into his breastplate, causing him to double over and lose his lunch over the deck. Touch me again, Inuzuka, and I'll do more than make you puke your guts out, Hinata said, her voice like steel. Get it through your thick skull. I don't like you that way. Before Kiba could try to respond, Sakura decided to give it a try. Hinata, you need to let go. Face facts. Naruto will not, no, cannot return to Konoha, she said, placing one hand on the former heir's shoulder. He's not welcome there anymore. Not after what he did to Sasuke. Hinata brushed Sakura's hand off her shoulder. That's rich, coming from you. He was only banished because he did his job, she replied, staring down the young medic in training. You of all people should have been trying to defend him, since he saved your life twice. But you chose to kiss the Uchiha's ass like the fangirl that you are. You, Kiba, Ino, Niji, Shikamaru, and everyone else, all of you betrayed him. That's why he is not welcome there anymore. Excuse me. Naruto watched as Hinata stomped off in the direction of the hotel. A small smile crept across his lips. Even after all this time, Hinata had defended him. Ignoring the screaming Sakura as Kakashi and Shino held her back, Naruto made his way back to the Imperial Consulate to prepare. End flashback. It was the same time that Sasuke challenged me to combat, Naruto continued. As you probably know, I've had past encounters with the Konoha ninja following the incident with the Akatsuki attacking the fire temple. I tailed Hinata for the past couple of days, getting her schedule down. Wasn't easy, but I managed to use one of my courier ninja to summon her to the Imperial Consulate. Flashback. Imperial Consulate, Sunagakure Branch. Hinata showed the scroll containing the Imperial insignia, a fox head with a swirling whirlpool in the background, to the guards at the front gate, and they allowed her to pass without incident. Hinata was led to the reception room, where Naruto awaited her arrival. The one thought that was going through Hinata's mind was who would want anything to do with her, especially one from the Western Empire. Of course, that train of thought came to a halt when she was led into the reception room, where she came face to face with the man in black. The same one that has beaten down the majority of the Konoha 11, several clan heads, her father included, Special Jounin and one meddling warhawk and his personal root Anbu. His face hidden under the black Kage-style cap, Naruto sent Hinata's escort away. Turning to Hinata, he said, Do you know who I am? Hinata nodded. Yes. You're the one that has beaten most of Konoha's top ninja, she replied, not recognizing Naruto. It's a bit more complicated than that, Hinata, Naruto replied, one hand reaching for his hat. Hinata's eyes went wide as she recognized Konoha's most hated ninja. The same one that she had defended all these years. The whisker-like marks were gone, he was taller, and his hair had taken on a reddish hue, but it was still Naruto. Naruto. Naruto nodded, smiling broadly. Yeah. It's me, Hinata. Hinata's reaction was instant. She lunged at Naruto and ensnared him in a bear hug, not wanting to let him go. She had nearly given up hope that he was still alive. But here he was, alive and in the employ of the Western Empire. Naruto returned the hug, his chin on the top of Hinata's head. It's okay, Hinata. It's okay. After prying Hinata away from him, the former genin turned emperor and the former heiress took a seat on the couch. Hinata, I owe you an apology, Naruto began. Had I known that you felt the way you did about me back in Konoha, I would have spent more time with you rather than chasing after Sakura. You were young then, Hinata pointed out. I'm still young, Naruto pointed out. He then noticed something. Narrowing his eyes, he reached for Hinata. Hinata, sensing what Naruto was planning on doing, grabbed his wrist and turned away, looking ashamed. No. Naruto. Naruto could only guess. Show me. Almost hesitantly, Hinata turned back to him and lifted her bangs. Naruto's eyes widened in horror as to what was on her forehead. The caged bird seal. Hayashi did this, didn't he? Naruto's voice was as cold as ice. Hinata nodded, the tears flowing freely. Last year. Hanabi, at the council's urging, invoked her right of challenge and challenged me. I lost and no, Hayashi branded me and shoved me into the cadet branch. He said that not only am I worthless as an heir, but the clan has shown weakness, because I supported you. The main branch sees me as worthless and the cadet branch is just as bad. That was all that Hinata had managed to say before she broke down completely. Naruto allowed her to cry into his shoulder. He held her until she finally calmed down. Meanwhile, Naruto was thinking all the ways that he could torture and maim the Hyuga clan. There was one way that he could stick it to Hayashi and the rest of those stuck-up snobs in the main branch. Hinata found herself being gently pulled to her feet. Once Naruto had smoothed her hair back, exposing the seal, he brought his hands together, as if he was praying. Naruto. Shoo. Stand still and trust me, okay? Hinata nodded and closed her eyes. Naruto focused in on the seal on Hinata's forehead. Then he went through hand seals. Slowly at first. But then they began to pick up speed. Naruto then pressed his index and middle finger at the center of the seal. Release, he said. Hinata felt a slight heat on her forehead, a stark contrast as to the bone-wrenching pain she had to endure when she was branded the first place. Then, the sensation was gone. You can open your eyes now, Naruto said as he retrieved one of Hinata's kunai from her pouch and raised it to her face. There, Hinata could see that there was no seal on her forehead. It was no henge either. The caged bird seal, thought by the main branch clan to be irremovable, was removed. What, how? Hinata asked, astonished. I'm a seal master, Naruto explained, smiling broadly. So something like the caged bird seal is easy for me to remove. His tone was modest, rather than being a boast. He was rewarded with another glomp from Hinata. Thank you, just, thank you. After a moment, Naruto gently pulled away from Hinata. You know you can't go back to Konoha, or to your clan, he said, his tone serious. If Hayashi sees that you no longer have the seal, he will either rebrand you or worse. Hinata nodded. I know, she replied softly. Before Naruto could ask her to come with him, she beat him to the punch. Naruto, take me with you. I got nothing back home. Please take me with you. You want to go back west with me? Yes. From the look of things, you seem to be pretty connected there. Do you know the Emperor? Will he grant me asylum? It was then that Hinata received the third shock of her life. Of course I know the Emperor, Naruto replied. The Emperor is me, Haim. Hinata looked at Naruto as if he had grown a second head. The Emperor is you, she managed to squeak out right before doing the one thing she hadn't done since Naruto's banishment. She fainted. End flashback. After that, I allowed Hinata to remain inside the consulate, Naruto concluded. From what I've heard, the Konoha ninja combed the entire village looking for her, overlooking the fact that she was inside the consulate. After I defeated Sasuke, Hinata and I left for home, after I punched Hayashi out again. Huh, Jiraiya grunted. He then noticed the wedding band on Naruto's ring finger and the diamond ring on Hinata's own. So, married, huh? 2 years, Hinata replied, looking at Naruto, smiling. So Naruto's the Emperor, so that makes you. Jiraiya began. Her Imperial Highness, Empress Consort Hinata Namikaze, a voice from behind Jiraiya said. Jiraiya turned around. Standing behind him, having just entered the throne room, was a woman. Standing at Naruto's height, with curves and a bosom that could only be matched by Tsunade herself. Long red hair was tied into a single bun, with two braids poking out from said bun, the braids ending at the small of her back. Her attire consisted of a formal yukata, red with a black lotus pattern. Green eyes scanned both the emperor and the perverted sage, who stood mesmerized by her beauty. Beauty that men would simply go to war for. She is also one of the best students in the senjutsu arts I have ever come across, the woman said. Senjutsu, Hinata sage? Jiraiya said. Third fox sage, the woman replied. Turning to Naruto she addressed him. I've heard from A that someone from Fire County showed up. Never thought it would be the perv. I thought neither you nor Hinata would want anything to do with them again. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I wasn't expecting him to show up, he replied in his own defense, as Jiraiya pulled out his notebook, intending on using the woman for research for his next Ika novel. However, the woman stopped him. You haven't changed, Toad Sage. Even after 20 years. Jiraiya stopped. You know me? The woman smiled meanly. Jiraiya took notice of the elongated canines in her mouth. Of course. The last time we met, I made a stop at a certain village in Fire Country. As she said that, 9 tails emerged from her backside. 9 crimson fox tails, which waved lazily around her as if they had a life of their own. The name's Kidami Akashiya, she introduced herself. Chief Prime Minister of the Western Empire. But you know me by my official title, Kyubi no Yuku, the 9-tailed fox. Konoha, the Hokage's office. Tsunade Senju sat behind her desk, Shizun standing beside and to the side of her, Taunton in her arms. Standing before the Godame was a 6-ninja team, consisting of 6 jounin. A team she hoped was the salvation of the leaf. 4 of them were part of the original Konoha 11, but she had chosen each of them for a different reason. First up, was the team leader, ANBU member and former sensei of the now-defunct Cell 7, Kakashi Hatake. Wielder of the Sharingan, a memento from his late teammate Obito Uchiha, he was a master of over 1,000 jutsu, and the former sensei of the banished Naruto Uzumaki. Kurina Yuhi Satorubi was the former captain of Cell 8. The wife of Asuma Sarutobi, she was Konoha's chief Genjutsu master, capable of confusing the enemy with her illusions. The double team of Kiba Inuzuka and his giant dog Akamaru were also a valued asset to the team, and his rank of Jounin proved that. He was also the first to turn against Naruto when it became known that he was the Kyubi Jinchuriki, having taken the side of his mother and sister. For recon, Shino Aburame was Tsunade's next choice. His chakra-eating bugs would prove quite useful for the mission ahead. Next up was Tsunade's apprentice, Ino Yamanaka. 1/3 of the Ino Shikacho trio, she had proven to be one of the best medic ninjas ever produced by the Leaf. Originally, both Ino and Sakura Haruno were apprenticed to Tsunade, but when it became clear that Ino was proving to be the better student, Sakura was furious. It was after this that Sakura's ninja career began to suffer, despite the fact that Tsunade had given them equal time together. Then, following her defeat at the hands of Hinata Namikaze, Sakura became a liability. Sakura's pride would eventually be her downfall, as she had assaulted a Chunin, thinking that she was Ino. In response to the assault, Tsunade had terminated Sakura's apprenticeship under her and revoked her ninja registration. Not even Sakura's mother, whose influence was strong on the civilian side, could sway the vote in her favor, since the incident happened in full view of the Fire Daimyo. Last, was Shikamaru Nara. Aside from being a master strategist, the slacker had somehow made Jounin and under his father's tutelage, was an expert in politics, making him the perfect man for the job. Reporting as ordered, Lady Hokage, Kakashi said. Tsunade didn't waste no time in explaining. This is a SS-ranked mission. It is apparent that Konoha will soon be attacked by Oto, Iwa, and Kumo. We cannot survive this war without any help. That is why you are going to the Western Empire to seek an audience with the Emperor, to try to get him to aid us in this war. If not, then Konoha will fall. This was a surprise to those assembled. No one in Konoha had ventured to the west since the first Hokage was in office, due to the ongoing wars. This was pretty new for them. All they heard was that someone about their age had unified the lands and was made emperor. On top of that, the empire had alliances with both Suna and Mist, which could prove invaluable for the war ahead. The future of the leaf hangs in the balance, Tsunade said. Which is why you must not fail. Travel through the neutral countries. Do not attract any unwanted attention. You leave now. The gathered ninja bowed in response. As they began to leave the room, Tsunade ordered Kakashi and Kurenai to remain behind. Once the younger ninja were gone, Tsunade addressed Kakashi and Kurenai. I did not want to say anything in front of the others, but the both of you have a secondary mission. If you come across Naruto in your mission. Kakashi nodded, as did Kurenai. We will ask him to come back to Konoha, Kakashi said. Are you sure that he would want to come back, after what was done to him? Kurenai asked. But would the council accept it? In a state of emergency, even my word can override the will of the council, Tsunade explained. Tell him if you see him, that I am offering him a pardon and safe passage back to Konoha should he choose to return and fight for the leaf. That's not what worries me, Kakashi said. We betrayed him, chose Sasuke over him, for all purposes, he may never forgive us, let alone Konoha, for what we did. Still, Tsunade said, we have to try. Dismissed. Kakashi and Kurenai departed from the room. The Imperial Complex Office of the Emperor. 1 year after the Unification Wars. I don't see how the old man can go through with this when he was alive. If I knew that being emperor had this much paperwork, I'd have refused. Inside the office of the emperor, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze was seated behind his desk. The 16-year-old former Konoha Jinchuriki turned emperor was at the moment going through the bane of his existence, paperwork. Fortunately for him, most of the paperwork was already completed, as he was hard at work reading and signing them off. Most of them were minor and petty disputes. One major perk about being the emperor was that there was less paperwork than that of the Hokage. The young emperor paused for a moment to regard a picture of himself when he was younger, taken back in Konoha. A picture of himself and Hiruzen Sarutobi, the Sandaime Hokage. The picture was taken shortly before the Chunin exams, Naruto wearing the Kage hat and grinning like a maniac while the professor smiled, pipe in his mouth. Next to that picture was a photo of his parents, Minato and Kushina Namiax. Old man, you would be proud, Naruto thought, smiling fondly at the memory. I may not be Hokage, but the people look up to me, respect me as a leader. He then turned to the photo of his parents. I hope you two are proud of me. I promised to make good to honor your memories. And I've kept that promise. 1 year had passed since the Unification War. The Empire has just celebrated its first anniversary, Naruto celebrating his first year as a leader of the unified West. Since that time, Naruto has settled into his role as Emperor of the West. Despite this, he never lost track as to who he once was. Kidami, Yujito, Zabuza, and Sunsure made sure of that. He didn't see himself as a ninja or a samurai. More like a combination of the two. One document attracted his attention. It was from his informants located in Water Country. Apparently, there was a new Mizukage in power, and she had ended the bloodline wars which had plagued the country. Even more surprising was the fact of who was currently the Kazekage of Suna. Well, I'll be, Gar's the new Kazekage, Naruto muttered to himself, smiling broadly, reading the report from the Pekor branch in Suna. He looked at his watch. 5 minutes before the meeting of the council. This could prove to be quite interesting indeed. The emperor rose from his seat. Retrieving his jacket and slipping it over his shoulders, i.e., his Shippuden uniform, only all black, he exited the office, making sure to take the reports on Mist and Suna with him. The meeting was straightforward. Aside from an uprising of malcontents loyal to Oda which was quickly crushed before it could gain steam, and the financial situation concerning the southern Badlands, there was nothing worthy to report. Good thing that they only met 3 times a month. The council hall inside the Hall of Sovereigns was as big as the council chambers back inside Konoha. The council chambers consisted of 3 long tables, the first containing the seats of the emperor and his chief prime minister. 2 tables located on either side of the emperor's table faced each other, each containing 6 seats for either side. 6 of the members were handpicked by Naruto himself, while the other 6 were voted in by the people of the Western Empire. The 6 that Naruto had chosen were from the West's most respected samurai and shinobi clans. Emperor Namikaze sat at the head of the table. Kidami sat at his left, the council, not to mention the people of the West knowing full well about the red-headed woman's true nature. The council hall inside the Hall of Sovereigns was as big as the council chambers back inside Konoha. The council chambers consisted of 3 long tables, the first containing the seats of the emperor and his prime minister. 2 tables located on either side of the emperor's table faced each other. On Naruto's left, Sunshur, the elder samurai warrior and philosopher who had taught Naruto the ways of the samurai. In his youth, as Naruto had found out, he had fought Hiruzen Sachitobi to a draw and had respected Naruto's father figure a great deal, and grieved silently when Naruto had told him about his unfortunate passing. During the Unification War, he had invited Naruto to his village and Naruto became so impressed with the old man that he asked to be trained in the ways of the samurai. When the empire was created, he was the first that Naruto had invited to be on the council. Despite his old age, Sunshur was well respected by samurai and ninja alike. His granddaughter, Sana Sunshur, who was a member of Yujito's Hellcats, served as part of Naruto's elite guards. Next was Eiji Kibagami, also from a respected samurai clan with connections in Iron Country, as he had family there, which was helpful when Naruto negotiated a trade agreement between the Empire and Iron. A hard-punching, hard-drinking samurai with a mouth that would make Tayuya blush and Haiden green with envy, he was the first to join up with Naruto in his ambition. Despite being a foul-mouthed samurai, he was fiercely loyal to the young emperor, honorable, and carried himself as a true samurai. It was also a known fact that he and Kasumi Ehara were romantically involved. His pet wolf, Bijumaru, was at his side. Like Sunshur, Eiji had a member of his family as part of the elite guard. His nephew, Hideo Kibagami, served proudly. Next to Kibagami was the head of the Chiba clan, Kuda Chiba. The Chiba clan was a line of ninja who practiced a deadlier style of taijutsu that would put even Rock Lee and Madogai to shame. The taijutsu used originally as an assassination technique. Like Sunshi's granddaughter and Eiji's son, her eldest son, Takuma, served as one of Naruto's elite guards, a high honor for the Chiba clan. In most ways, the Chiba clan reminded Naruto of the Inuzuka, fiercely loyal to the pack. Sitting next to Kuda was her childhood friend and fellow ninja, Kokoro Yamada. The eldest daughter of a former nobleman and a mist refugee, she was the diametric opposite of Zabuza's partner Haku, as her attacks were fire-release attacks. In an interesting side note, her bloodline allows her to endure an opponent's fire attacks unscathed. The Yamada clan also had a reputation for being top-notch healers whose skill rivaled that of Tsunade in her prime. Next to the fire-wielding mistress was the regal Kasumi Ehara. The Ehara was the most powerful samurai clan on the southern continent, in both influence and skill, and aside from the elderly Sunshur who resided on the northern continent, was one of Naruto's major supporters. Kasumi herself was a legendary warrior in her own right, having led troops into battle. Every once in a while, she would propose a marriage between her eldest daughter and Naruto, of which Naruto had graciously declined. He told Lady Ehara that he would marry for love, not for honor or prestige. That, Lady Ehara could understand, as she and her late husband were the same. When her husband was killed by Oda's hand, he was about to claim Ehara for his own. Thankfully, Naruto's arrival put a stop to those plans. Seated next to Ehara was the head of the Okajima ninja clan, Heido Okajima. Nicknamed the Tengu because of his habit of wearing a Tengu mask to battle. The Okajima clan were skilled in ninjutsu, assassination techniques, and recon, and were the natural rivals of the Shinto clan, who favored open combat over covert assassinations. Naruto had approached the Okajima clan head for an alliance. Hayate was impressed by the boy's bravado and tenacity that he signed on to Naruto's side. Once the war was over, Naruto had returned to the Okajima clan their lands which were taken from them by one of the more corrupt daimyos. In return, the entire Okajima clan swore their eternal loyalty to their new emperor. On Naruto's right, Ryuji Shinzen and his wife Haruka Shinzen, the heads of the Western Empire's premier mercantile guild, Pekora Merchant House. Ryuji was originally a mercenary ninja, while Haruka had a gift for business and management. They were the first to back Naruto in his ambition financially following the death of Rokubunji Oda. When the Unification Wars had reached its conclusion, they created the merchant houses which had two purposes, providing imported and exported items across the empire and in the east, while at the same time keeping a close eye on the more unruly villages in the east. Thanks to Naruto, they now had branches all over the country, as well as several locations in the east, some of which served for gathering intel, as in Iwa, Fire Country, and Kumo. Next was Shinoda Wakaba, former pirate captain, now a close business partner and longtime friend with the Shinzens, since his 10-boat fleet was originally used to harass and plunder both Oda's and his allies' supplies. It was Haruka who had pointed out the perks in having a fleet of ships backing up his ambition to Naruto. Now, with the war over, the fleet was now used to transport goods all over the continent, as well as in the elemental countries. In an interesting side note, the Shinzens and Wakaba were both in-laws, since the Shinzen's son had married Wakaba's daughter, which had brought their families into a close alliance. Seated next to Wakaba was Katsumoto Kitahara, a daimyo from the southern region who supported the people and working class. He was overthrown by a power-mad warlord and condemned to wander the lands, until Naruto found him. He was one of the key members in the civilian council, in which, thanks to Katsumoto, that his major support base was the civilians themselves. Katsumoto's lands were restored unto him, as well as his title as a reward for his service and loyalty. Next to Wakaba was Shin Akazuki. His home was the southern part of the continent. Shin was the youngest of the council at age 23, and trained as a samurai. The son of Shinji Akazuki, a retired warlord who had fought with Naruto, Shin had made a name for himself during the Unification Wars as a formidable swordsman, and can hold his own against Naruto in their occasional spars. In some cases, he reminded Naruto of Shikamaru at times, brilliant, but lazy. Last, was Rumika Tadou. Like Katsumoto, she was a daimyo, but hailed from the North's mountainous Lodja region. Tadou was one of the daimyos whose land the late Rokubunji Oda had an eye for. Since her lands contained iron mines deep within the mountains, but once Naruto had eliminated him, she saw the wise decision in backing him in his war of conquest. Her husband was the original daimyo, until his death during a raiding party from Oda's men, forcing her to assume the role. But despite this, she was fiercely loyal to both her people and to the emperor. Aside from the Imperial Council, Naruto had requested that Zabuza Mamachi and Haku Mamachi be present for this meeting. The former mist swordsman and his female partner stood before the Imperial Council, both curious as to why they were summoned to this hearing. General Mamachi, Naruto began. First off, neither you nor Haku are not in any kind of trouble, so you can relax. I've asked you and Haku to come for a reason. Zabuza raised an eyebrow. That reason being, Chief? Naruto raised the sheet of paper from the Pekora's mist branch. This came in from Mist. The Mizukage is dead. Zabuza took the news well, given the fact that he had failed to assassinate Yugura years earlier. So Yugura is finally dead, eh? Well, hoopty fucking shit. I was hoping that I would return and do the deed. But it's still good news. Yugura was always unbalanced. Who's in charge now? Naruto looked at the sheet of paper. Her name's Terumi. Mei Terumi. That caught Zabuza's attention. Mei's the go dame now, huh? Wish it could have been me, but I like my current position. What can you tell us about this woman? Sunshire inquired. She's strong, Lord Sunshire. Very strong, Zabuza replied. Has a sunny disposition, even when she's threatening, kick your ass. If she was able to kill Yagura, then she is more than capable of stabilizing the mist after so many years of war. Naruto leaned back in his chair, pondering the information he has received. Sunshire caught the look on his emperor's face. Are you planning on making an alliance with Mist and Suna? Naruto smiled at the old samurai. Am I that predictable? Sunshire smiled back at the young emperor. No. You're just that easy. That got a good laugh from the council, Naruto included. Even Zabuza laughed while Haku giggled. Once everyone has calmed down, Naruto confirmed his intentions. To answer your question, Sunshire, yes, I plan on inviting not only the leader of the Mist, but Suna as well. The Kazekage of Suna is an old friend of mine. He is a Jinchuriki, like I once was. His beast is the one-tailed raccoon. Ah, Shikaku, Kidami said. He was always a bit unbalanced of the bunch. Then again, I'm willing to bet that Sanbai was the driving force behind Yagura's murderous reign. What about the Kazekage, your majesty? Lady Ehara asked. Aside that he is the Jinchuriki to the two tails, what else can you tell about him? Naruto went into detail about how he and Gaara met during the Chunin exams back in Konoha, all the way up to the point of the ill-fated retrieval mission of Sasuke Uchiha. Afterward, he put it to a vote. All in favor of inviting the Godame Mizukage and the Godame Kazekage to the imperial capital for terms? Naruto intoned. The vote was unanimous. The council voted yes. Naruto smiled. Motion passed. This meeting is adjourned. Sunigakure no Sato, Wind Country, several days later. Lord Kazekage, there is an envoy here to see you. Gaara looked up from his paperwork. Are they from Konoha? He asked the Suna Jounin that stood before him, obviously annoyed. Baki, Temari, and Kankuro both held curious looks as well. If they were from Konoha, then they would be escorted back to the country's borders. No, sir, the Suna Jounin replied. They are from the Western Empire, by way of the Pecora merchant house. The Empire. That was a pretty hot topic in the elemental countries. No sane ninja had ever ventured there. Yet someone around his age was able to conquer the northern and southern continents of the war-torn West and brought about peace, having been declared emperor. The other Kages knew about him, yet no one knew his name. And now, the Emperor of the West was reaching out to him. The door opened and a courier ninja stepped inside. Bowing to the Kazekage, he produced a scroll with the imperial seal, a fox's head in front of a swirling whirlpool. Lord Kazekage. May you have a long and prosperous reign. I bring word from my lord, his imperial majesty of the unified West. Temari took the scroll and handed it to her brother, the courier ninja bowing to the trio, before turning on his heel and leaving. The Suna Jinchuriki's curiosity was piqued when he saw the insignia. He broke the seal and unrolled the scroll. There was no invite, but a note, brief and to the point. Gaara. Come to the west. There will be a boat at the port in Wind Country in 3 days upon reading this message. I'll be waiting. The note was not signed, but rather had a crudely drawn picture of a certain blonde knucklehead flashing a peace sign. Gaara closed the scroll. Turning to his former sensei, he said, Baki, you're in charge until I come back. What it is? What's wrong? Baki asked. The emperor has invited me to come to the west, Gaara replied calmly. Temari, Kankuro, you two are coming with me. One more thing. Bring Cell 3. Sarutobi and his 2 friends? Baki asked. Why them? I have a feeling that the emperor is someone we know very well, Gaara replied. Have Sarutobi, Moegi, and Udon report here in 5 minutes. We leave within the hour. It took Gaara and his envoy 3 hours to reach the sea. And nearly a week to the Western Empire, by way of boat. The boat had stopped in water country first before moving on to wind. Upon boarding the ship, the Suna envoy was surprised to see an envoy from Mist as well. They had heard reports about someone eliminating the insane Yugura and bringing the bloodline purges to an end. The Mist envoy, led by the Godame Mizukichi herself, Mei Terumi, was also invited. Escorting her was the reformed 7 swordsmen of the Mist. Suna and Mist had some bad blood between the two villages, as several of Suna's clans were refugees from the Mist, having escaped from the village during the worst of the bloodline purges. Yugura had demanded that Suna release those who had fled back to the Mist. Gaara's predecessor refused. It was because of the first uprising back in Mist that Yugura had backed off. After several days at sea, the envoy had finally reached the unified West. Instead of docking at Karada port, the boat instead headed upriver. Mei was concerned and flagged down a sailor. "I thought we were going to disembark here," she said. "Not here, Lady Terumi," the sailor replied. "Kimin City, the imperial capital. We dock there in 30 minutes. As the sailor went about his business, Mei turned to Gaara, who stood along the bow. The boat passed Karada port and headed inland. The Kages of Mist and Suna took in the scenery. To think that just 2 years ago, this land was locked in a constant state of civil war, the Godame Mizukichi said. "Now, you really can't tell. I always thought that the Mist and Water Country had it bad when Yugura was in charge. But the stories I've heard about the West while I was a jounin about the West, whoever the Emperor is, he has done something that is nothing but miraculous." "MMM." Gaara agreed. The two Kages stood in silence as the boat made its way upriver. Within minutes, the imperial capital soon came into view. Mei and Gaara took notice of the imperial complex, the home of the emperor, rose above the city. From a distance, the home of the emperor and seat of the imperial west was imposing, reminding Gaara of the Kazakage Tower back in Suna. The sun had set and night was about to fall. Gaara felt a kind of anticipation that he has not felt since the Chunin exams. Back when Suna and Oto had invaded Konoha. Only difference was that he had the feeling that he was going to see an old friend. At the port, Zabuza Mamachi and Yujito Ni watched as the boat slowed to a stop, then was secured by the dock workers on the ground and the sailors on board. The emperor had assigned them to act as escorts to the imperial complex. Who better to escort the Kages of Mist and Sand than a ex-Kumo Kunoichi/Jinchuriki and a former Mist swordsman? The two generals who fought alongside Naruto were dressed in their respective uniforms. Yujito in her old Kumo uniform and the khaki jounin flak vest, a signature trademark of the Hellcats, the all-female fighting force which she founded, and for Zabuza, his favorite camo fatigues from his days as a missing ninja. Like Yujito, he also wore a jounin flak vest, only his was dark blue, the trademark of his own Black Ops unit, the Demon Squad, of which he founded alongside Haku. His oversized sword was slung over his shoulder. The gangplank was lowered, and the two Kages and their envoys started to disembark from the boat. Almost immediately, Yujito's senses went haywire. "Kitten." The two tails hissed. "He's a Jinchuriki." "I know. Naruto told me," Yujito replied. "It's Shikaku." Nibi was surprised. "Shikaku? That oversized rodent? He managed to get himself sealed?" "Looks that way," Yujito replied. "Keep it down." The monster cat went silent as the two Kages and their respective envoys approached the pair. Almost immediately, the 7 Mist swordsmen went for their swords. But Mei ordered them to stay their hand. "Do not attack him," Mei ordered. "But, he is still a missing nin," one of the swordsmen objected. "Granted that he tried to kill Yugura, but still a missing nin. And he is in the employ of the emperor," Mei pointed out. "I will not see the Mist wiped out because you tried to kill a ninja who answered to the emperor." Once that situation was diffused, Mei turned to Zabuza. "Zabuza Mamachi. Demon of the Mist. I thought you were dead." "One of these days, maybe." "I almost came close," Zabuza replied, bowing. "Lady Mizukichi." Welcome to the capital. He introduced Yujito. General Yujito Ni, commander of the Hellcats. Yujito, Godame Mizukage Terumi. Yujito bowed in greeting. Gaara's eyes narrowed slightly as he recognized the aura surrounding the blonde ninja. You're a Jinchuriki. That I am, Yujito replied. So are you, Lord Kazakage. Nibi identified yours as the one-tail. Nibi, the two-tailed monster cat, Gaara confirmed. So what's a kunoichi from Kumo doing here in the west? Temari asked, ready just in case that Yujito attacked. I no longer serve the cloud, Yujito replied. I was betrayed by the Kumo High Council without the knowledge of A and B. The council sold me out to the Akatsuki. The emperor saved my life. I've been at his side ever since. Temari calmed down after that. The Akatsuki was also a hot topic aside from the emperor. They had went underground following the disappearance of Naruto and Yujito, but there were reports of them resurfacing. Any village who had a Jinchuriki were in a state of high alert, or those Jinchuriki who were wandering had went underground. The emperor sent you to meet us? Gaara asked. Yujito nodded. Yes. Consider us your personal escort to the boss. He is waiting for you at his home. I always thought the people of the West were different, Mei said as Zabuza and Yujito walked through the open-air market of Kimen. Now I see that everyone's the same, from the style of clothes to the same food. The boss and I thought the same thing when we first came here, Yujito said. Of course, this was back when Oda had ran the place. It wasn't as lively as it is now. The living conditions were horrible. Oda was leeching off the people, demanding tribute upon tribute. He killed the men who did not comply and raped their wives and daughters. One girl he used as a sex toy after cutting off her limbs and tongue, after eliminating her family who dared to oppose him. When he got tired of her, he tossed her to his troops. When the boss found her after we had killed off Oda, even he was appalled at the barbarism that Oda had done. He did the right thing and granted her a mercy killing. Temari and Mei paled at Yujito's story. Even the mist swordsman and the other Suna ninja looked sick. The boss spent 3 months consolidating his power base here, Yujito continued. It was then he decided to launch his own war. A war to unify the continents. Most of the warlords here fought only for land and to subjugate the other. He fought to unify the lands under his banner, to bring about an everlasting peace, something that the West has not seen since the era of the Six-Path Sage. From the look of things, he has succeeded, Temari noted. This place feels so alive. Only took the chief 2 years, Zabuza said. I was one of the many who came to his side. All of the tyrannical warlords were wiped out, while those who were smart enough not to fight flocked to his side, while others supported him financially. 1 year to unify the northern region, and another year to unify the southern region. We just celebrated our first anniversary of the empire unification a couple of weeks ago. He should have invited you two here earlier. You would have had a blast. I'm sure we would have, Mei said as the party passed 2 members of the Hellcats. Identified by the same type of flak vest that Yujito wore. The 2 Hellcats greeted their supreme commander, to which Yujito responded with a nod. And here we are, Zabuza said as they approached the Imperial complex. The massive doors were open, but were guarded by members of both the Hellcats and the Demon Squad. Passing by their subordinates, Zabuza and Yujito led the visiting party inside the complex. Wow, Mei said, looking around. Nice setup the Emperor has. The Imperial Palace sits at the center of the complex, Zabuza explained. As you can see, the place is heavily guarded by both ninja and samurai. Not only does the Emperor live here, but he also meets with the Imperial Council inside the House of Sovereigns and entertains guests inside the reception hall. We even got some barracks here for them to stay in. Since the Emperor's a seal master, his main home is warded off from intruders. He should be inside the House of Sovereigns now. We're heading there now. In that case, lead the way, Gaara said. House of Sovereigns, throne room. dressed in black, complete with his black Kage-style hat concealing his face. Naruto sat on his throne, Kidami at his side. He had received word that Gaara and Mei had arrived safely and had just entered the House of Sovereigns. General Kazuma had verified that both Kages were accompanied by their personal escorts. Naruto, however, was curious as to why Gaara had a squad of genin tagging along. Temari and Kankuro, he could understand, but a squad of genin? Naruto shrugged it off and straightened himself in his seat, as the Kage of the Mist and the Kage of the Sand entered his throne room, followed by their respective escorts. Naruto was thankful that he was still wearing the Kage-style hat, otherwise, he would have been surprised to see Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon among the Suna envoy. Even more surprising was that they wore the Hitai-8 with the Suna hourglass identifying them as Suna ninja. Gaara, in the meantime, narrowed his eyes at the red-headed woman that stood beside the throne. Shikaku was speaking to him, but he ignored the rodent. As their respective entourages remained behind, the Kage of the Mist and the Kage of the Sand stepped forward. Stopping 3 feet before the throne, they bowed. The emperor responded with a nod of his head. Gaara of the Sand, Godame Kazakage of Suna, Mei Terumi, Godame Mizukage of Mist, welcome to my home. We are honored to be here, Your Majesty, Mei replied. Naruto rose from his throne. The look on your face says it all. Why are the both of you here, and why did I invite you to my lands, correct? He inquired as he stepped down to face the 2 Kages. In that case, prepare to be enlightened. The young emperor reached up and removed his hat, tossing it to a valet that was standing nearby. Gaara had his suspicions when he was delivered the invite, but despite the missing whisker-like marks and his hair taking on a reddish tint, this had all but confirmed it. Temari and Kankuro were at a loss for words, since they were facing the last person they would expect to be Emperor of the Unified West. Boss. Oof. Naruto grunted as he was tackled to the floor by Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon. The guards inside the throne room couldn't help but to chuckle at their emperor's antics. Despite being the most powerful person on the continent, he was still a teenager. Even the Mist Swordsman had a laugh. Kidami cracked a smile at the sight of Naruto being dogpiled by the 3 junior ninja. Knock it off, you 3, Gaara ordered. Give him some breathing room. Once Naruto managed to pry himself from Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon, he straightened himself off and faced the 2 Kages. He greeted Mei first. Lady Kazakage. Welcome to Kimen. Zabuza's told me quite a bit about you. He did, didn't he? Mei replied. Good things I hope. Anything bad would ruin my reputation. Although I am curious as to how you know the Demon of the Mist. We met 4 years ago, back when I was a genin, Naruto explained. He then gave both Kages a quick summary of the mission to Wave Country and of his run-in with Zabuza and Haku. I later found out that both were alive. Turns out the Zabuza and Haku, my team and I fought, were nothing but advanced blood clones. Zabuza had taken off when the Mist Hunter ninja arrived sooner than expected. He was one of many that helped me unify the West. Mei turned to Zabuza. I am honestly impressed, Mamachi. Of course. You will give me the whole story later on, she said, smiling sweetly, yet her tone showed that there was no room for argument. Zabuza gulped. Of course, Lady Mizukage. In the meantime, Naruto had turned to Gaara. The 2 leaders shook hands. Gaara. Congratulations on your promotion to Kazakage. Gaara smiled. And you, Uzumaki. It's clear that you have once again outdid me. I never thought it would be you who would unify the West. Congratulations to you on accomplishing such a feat. The people here are not unlike those back in the East. They never knew peace, Naruto explained. Not since the era of the 6-Path Sage. At least back east we had some sort of peace and order. He gestured to the 3 genin. How'd you end up with those 3? It was after you were banished that the Sunic Council sent an envoy to Konoha, Gaara explained. Temari was with them. When the Konoha Council explained why you were banished, we terminated our alliance with the Leaf. Sarutobi and his two friends had caught up with Temari and asked to come with her. They knew about your burden as the Jinchuriki, and when the banishment order came down, decided to desert the village in favor of Suna. How did Asuma take the news? Naruto asked. He tried to stop us from leaving, pleaded with me to stay, the young Sarutobi said. Said that family should stick together. But we couldn't stay. Not after how the council treated you after you brought back that traitor. I haven't spoken with him since that day. Naruto tapped the hitayate that his former protege wore. So you're a genin of Suna now? Congratulations. I always had faith in you, Konohamaru. In all of you. It's Maru now, Maru corrected. I changed my name when I arrived in Suna, boss. That was the last thing that connected me to that village. Whenever people called me by Konohamaru, it reminded me of you and of your sacrifice. It brought back so many bad memories. Maru, show some respect, Temari scolded. Naruto waved her off. It's okay, Temari. Maru's been calling me boss ever since Konoha. It's his way of showing respect towards me. In any case, it's good to see you again, Naruto, the Wind Mistress said as she hugged the younger man. You're grown too. Last time I've seen you, you were nothing but a sprat. It was indeed true. Naruto barely stood over 5 feet back in Konoha. Now, he was clearly a foot taller. For years of hard training and fighting tends to work wonders. He turned to Kankuro. Still into your puppets, I see. Improved any? Kankuro grinned. You can be more than happy to find out, kid. He shook Naruto's hand. Good to see you're still alive. Can't die just yet. The people need me. He then introduced Kidami. My chief prime minister, Lady Kidami Akashiya. Kidami bowed in greeting. As she did so, Shikaku recognized her aura immediately. She is the Ninetales. Shikaku screamed in Gaara's mind. She is the Kyuubi in human form. Kidami saw the look on Gaara's face and could only guess as to what the one-tail was saying to its container. So Shikaku figured it out, huh? She asked, smiling meanly. How is the rodent? Hey! I resent that. Shikaku shouted. Shut up, Shikaku, you're giving me a headache, Gaara muttered. To Kidami, he said, is it true? You're the Ninetales? That I am, Kidami confirmed. Temari and Kankuro blinked. They looked at the female redhead, who was looking on with a smug look. This was the same nine-tailed fox that they seen during the Tsunoto invasion? Maru. Moegi and Udon already knew about Naruto's secret, but was surprised to find out that the Ninetales was a woman. Are you sure, Gaara? Kankuro asked. She can't be the most powerful of the Bijou. That was when Temari tapped him on the shoulder, before pointing at the Empire's prime minister. When Kankuro looked in her direction, he first felt the wave of killer intent directed at him. Then his jaw hit the ground, as did everyone else's save for Gaara and the Neo-Maru Corps. You were saying, Kankuro? Kidami asked sweetly as her 9 tails snaked around her. Her eyes glowing an inhuman red, the pupils slitted. The puppet master waved his hands in a placating manner. Okay. I'm convinced. Please don't kill me. Well, since you said please, Kidami replied as the tails vanished, her eyes reverting to normal. Show off, Shikaku muttered. It's true that Kidami is the strongest of the tailed beasts, but they are not demons as most people would think, Naruto explained. We Bijou are more connected to nature, Kidami seconded. But after we were separate from the 10-tailed beast, some pompous little pedant had the brilliant idea to turn the tailed beasts into weapons by sealing them inside humans, creating the Jinchuriki. As to how Kidami is free, I studied the seal and reversed engineered it. I freed her with all 9 tails of power. That much is true, Shikaku confirmed it. One thing about us Bijou is that we are incapable of lying. Okay, enough talk, Naruto said. You must be hungry and tired from your trip. Consider yourselves guests in my home. He summoned a valet who was standing nearby. Take them to the guest quarters. See to their comfort. Yes, Your Majesty, the valet said. Later on following dinner, Naruto entertained his guests with past war stories. Mei, on the other hand, had hauled Zabuza off to raid the Imperial Palace's sake stash. It would be late night when a shit-faced Mizukage and a equally sloshed commander of the demon unit staggered into the Imperial Palace's guest room. Zabuza did a faceplant into the couch, while Mei staggered to her guest room. Rather than retire to her own chambers, Kidami shifted into her fox form and founded a shaded area within the complex's grounds and fell asleep there. Naruto and Gaara were on the balcony of the guest quarters overlooking the city. I think it's safe to say that Temari has fallen in love with Kimon City, Gaara noted. You've proven to be the most unpredictable ninja once again, Uzumaki. You think the city's nice, wait till I tell her about the hot springs resort in the mountains, Naruto replied. She'll never want to leave then. The Suna Jinchuriki cracked a small grin. I'll bet. Temari always loved hot springs. The ninja back home always talked about the West, that going there is for the foolish and the crazy. Not even Orochimaru or the Akatsuki would even dare to come here, let alone Konoha. Naruto frowned. He knew that this would come. What's been happening ever since I left? From what I managed to hear, the council pardoned the Uchiha for his attempted defection, Gaara said. They place the blame on both his cursed seal and on you. After your banishment, every single alliance and trade agreement that Konoha had because of you were dissolved. Wave, snow, hot water. Konoha is a virtual pariah in the shinobi world. Wherever they go, they are not welcome. In some cases, they are not allowed entry into some of the towns, forcing their ninja to go in using henges and aliases. I bet they blame me for that too. Naruto was not the least bit surprised with Gaara's reply. They do, the redhead replied. After talking for several more minutes, the two leaders decided to retire for the night. After all, tomorrow would be a big day for all parties involved. The following day, a special meeting was taking place inside the House of Sovereigns. The Emperor had convened his Imperial Council, and this time, the two Kages were present. 2 more chairs were placed at the head table. Gaara and Mei sat on Naruto's right, while Kidami remained on his left. Naruto himself dressed for the occasion, his white shirt, black vest, long coat, pants and boots, while Gaara and Mei were in their respective Kage robes of state. This meeting of the Imperial Council is now called to order, Naruto announced. It is my honor and my pleasure to introduce to this council, Godame Kazakage Gaara of the Sand. Gaara rose from his seat and bowed. And Godame Mizukage Mei Terumi. Mei followed suit. Once both Kages were seated, Naruto continued. This is the Imperial Council. You already know my Prime Minister, Kidami Akashiya. After Naruto got through introducing the council members to the two Kages, the meeting was underway. Thanks to our emperor, the empire is strong, Sunsure began. But even the strongest of the nations can use an ally or two. His Imperial Majesty spoke highly of you, Lord Kazakage, and General Momochi also praised your leadership abilities, Lady Mizukage. Which is why we are here to discuss terms of a military and trade alliance. Go on, Gaara prodded. At Naruto's nod, a valet approached the head table and placed 2 binders in front of Gaara and Mei before retreating back to his original post. The terms are agreeable and very generous, Sunsure continued. We already have branches of the Pakor Merchant House in both Suna and Mist, which is already covered in the trade agreements. As for military aid, it's really quite simple. If you ever need a hand, then the Empire will come to your aid. There's a catch, isn't it? Mei asked, leafing through the document. Yes, Naruto replied. Only one condition. That the both of you will allow an imperial consulate in your respective villages, and in response, I will allow a Suna and Mist consulate to be placed here in the capital. Of course. My representatives will follow and honor the rules of your respective villages, and your representatives will honor and respect the rules of the empire. The representatives you appoint will answer directly to you, and the same applies with my representatives. As an added bonus, you get your products at a reduced price through the Pekora shops. Can we assign a garrison of ninja to defend the embassy if necessary? Gaara asked. Naruto nodded. I see no problem with that, as long as I can do the same. There's 2 compounds in the city that are empty. You can use them if you wish. So, do we have an agreement? Gaara and Mei exchanged glances. It took them only a moment to decide. Within seconds, their signature and their Hanko seals was on the documents, followed by Naruto's own. 1 month had passed since the unified West, Suna, and Mist had formed their alliance. Their respective consulates were in place in both East and West. In Kimen, the Suna representative was Temari herself, having volunteered for the position. Her reason, she wanted a change of scenery and she had grown quite attached to the imperial capital. Naruto suspected that the hot springs resort in the Lodja Mountains may have had an influence in Temari's decision. At least, Gaara sent someone he trusted. Mei had sent a former Mist swordsman who was also a relative of hers as the Mist representative. In truth, her family had adopted him and he took on their family name. Takashi Terumi. Naruto had emerged from a meeting of the Imperial Council in high spirits. Ever since Yuki had started to film her movies here, the Western Empire has seen a major boost in tourism. Particularly at the resort towns of North Tomo in the northern region and Tears Point in the south. Even the annual tournaments were beginning to draw in ninja from the east, hoping to make a name for themselves by taking on the best the West has to offer. They all failed. Miserably. The main reason for Naruto's good mood was that he had no paperwork to do. Actually, he did, but he left that to the shadow clones, allowing him to meditate and train. He was a hands-on type of emperor, but even he needed a break from the paperwork. Upon exiting the House of Sovereigns, Naruto was met by a Suna Jounin, one of many who was part of the Suna garrison assigned to the Suna consulate. He was accompanied by Maru, Moegi, and Udon. Lord Emperor, the Suna ninja greeted, taking a knee. Hey, boss, the 3 genin greeted, bowing to the older teenager. Maru? What are you 3 doing here? I thought you were in Suna, Naruto said. Ordering the Jounin to rise, he asked, what is it? The Suna ninja produced 2 scrolls with the Suna seal. From Lord Kazekage, he said before vanishing in a poof of smoke. Naruto looked at the scroll for a moment, before breaking the seal and opening it. It was a note, from Gaara, to him. Lord Namikaze, if you are reading this, then Sarutobi and his friends have arrived safe and sound. The Chunin exams are 6 months away and their Jounin sensei was injured in a minor skirmish with ninja from the cloud. I have no other Jounin to spare at the time, which is why I have sent them to you. Sarutobi and his friends look up to you and respect you a great deal, as I have seen back during the Chunin exams in Konoha. I am asking that you train these 3 for the upcoming Chunin exams, which will be held in Suna. Enclosed in the second scroll is their files and their specialties and weaknesses. I have already notified Temari at the consulate. Consider this their first S-ranked assignment. I know that you will not disappoint me, Lord Emperor. I am expecting great things from these 3. Gaara of the Sand, Godame Kazekage of Suna. Well, boss? Maru prodded. What does it say? Naruto smiled at the younger genin. You 3 are as of this moment, on your first official S-class mission. Really? Awesome, came the reply from the trio. Your mission is a 6-month assignment from the Kazekage himself, Naruto continued. He has left the 3 here in order to train for the upcoming Chunin exams. As the 3 genin cheered, Naruto flagged down a passing valet. These 3 are considered guests in my home. Show them the guest quarters and get them settled in. The valet bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. Naruto turned to the 3 genin. Follow her inside. she will get you settled in. Maru and his teammates nodded eagerly and followed the valet towards the imperial palace. The emperor turned on his heel and entered the hall. As he headed for his office, he undid the second scroll and began to read it. Maru's specialty is ninjutsu, just like old man Sachirobe. Moegi knows the basics of medical ninjutsu, and Udon shows promise in hand-to-hand combat, Naruto thought as he continued to read. They're a bunch of misfits, but they show promise. Kinda reminds me of myself when I was younger. This can be interesting. Rounding the corridor, he saw Sunshur chatting with Heiichi Okajima, Kokoro Yamada, and Kudachiba. Before they could say anything, Naruto had beaten them to the point. You four, my office. Curious as to what their emperor would want, they followed him inside. 10 minutes later, Maru Sarutobi, Moegi, and Udon stood before the emperor, the boy that they had long since admired since their days back in Konoha. And he was not alone. Standing alongside Naruto were 4 people that they recognized from their last visit. Naruto had explained the request from Gaara in regards to the 3 kids standing before them, and had requested that they assist in their training. Not one to back down from a challenge. Sunshur and the 3 council members agreed. Gaara's entrusted you 3 to my care, to train you for the Chunin exams, Naruto intoned, his face serious. But I cannot do this alone, which is why I enlisted the help of these 4 upstanding warriors. I fought with them during the Unification Wars, and I trust them with my life. Mondays, I will teach you taijutsu, as well as chakra control and endurance training. Tuesdays, Sunshur will train you 3 in basic weapons combat and tactics. Wednesdays and Thursdays, I got something special planned. Maru, you will learn ninjutsu from Okajima. At that, the Tengu bowed. Moegi, as you are studying to be a medic ninja, you will spend time with Yamada. Kuda bowed as well. And Udon, you will receive intermediate and advanced taijutsu training from the Chiba clan, mostly from Takuma. The Chiba clan head followed suit. Sunshur sized the 3 Sunagenin up. So, this is your little pet project? Train these 3 into battle-ready ninja? You got your work cut out for you, Chief. Maru puffed at that insult. Hey! I'm gonna be a great ninja. Like the boss and my grandpa. Sunshur looked at Maru. And who are you? Maru Sarutobi. Sunshur recognized the name immediately. Sarutobi. Your grandfather was Hiruzen Sarutobi? You knew him? Knew him? I fought him when I was younger, Sunshur replied. The chief admired him a great deal. As did I. Good man, good ninja. Although it's a bit late, the chiefs told me about his passing. You do have my sympathies. They're a group of misfits, but they got heart and guts, Naruto added. That goes a long way. I see in them plenty of potential. Potential to even surpass me. They got spirit, too, Okajima added. I'll send in one of my best ninja to assist in the training. You have the full support of the Okajima clan in this, Chief. Naruto turned to the 3 Sunagenin. I will warn you in advance. These 4 are not to be taken lightly, as am I. We will push you to the extent of your abilities. We will be hard, but we will also be fair. I will not make the same mistakes as Hatake did with myself, the Emo and the Banshee. You will receive equal training. And I will be in contact with Temari, who will be passing on your progress reports to Gaara. By the time the Chunin exams come around, you 3 will be the talk of the town. Do I make myself clear? Yes, boss. Maru, Moegi, and Udon shouted in chorus. You 3 will have the weekend off, Naruto said as he dismissed the 4 council members. Come Monday, your training will begin. There will be risks, but the rewards will be great. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.